Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Gunnar, but Boromant's got the inside.
A guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that Putin for lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to PSGL ECs once again for the third round of the championship, where today we head off towards Spain for the Spanish Grand Prix at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalonia, which, Josh, I think we all know is a brilliant circuit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just slightly better with that clunky chicane in that final sector. No one will ever change my mind, but of course, brilliant circuit, brilliant overtaking opportunities, and it can always cause great racing. It doesn't take long to look back in the E-Series history to realise that sometimes some of these, not the best overtaking tracks can create some of the greatest racing we would have ever seen. And of course, E-Series has never been to Catalonia, has it before? So it'll certainly throw up something in the works with some of these teams. And boy, do we have some hard hitters for this week as well.
Indeed, the grid is absolutely mental, isn't it, this week? We'll have a quick look at it on our screens when it pops up. There it is. So we can see, obviously, in the TF10 will be Max Fiesel and a bit of a late change being Alex Santana instead of Tony Roche. Then over in the... And that's the wrong one, isn't it? Brilliant. What a start.
Yes.
What a start.
That's it happens. It's one of those.
Of course. There we are.
But,
there we are. It's back. It's back. So, Josh, why don't you read through it? You might have a bit more luck than me.
Right. Well, okay. Let's give it a go. We've got Max Fiesel, and no longer Tony Roche, as you mentioned. We're going to have Alex Santana hopping in for that TF10 outfit. And then over to F7R, we've got Tycho Hardy and Nando Morea. Again, another strong lineup before we hop back over to last season's champions, looking to try and get a bit of retribution from their recent results, with Nicolas Longuet and Camille Stachera in the Ferrari outfit. And then Novus have Timo Zelenkovic and Sixten Lindhart. Race Clutch, we've got Lenny Papinter and Joris Krootsen. Thomas Enge has got Jan Halliday, Frank Morawiak, and Veloce have got Declan Barrett and Bradley Holdham. SRC have got Louis Welsh and Shinanki Clay. Oh, do we even need to make an excuse for this as well? We got Thomas Ronhar and Xander Van Dijken, I believe. Again, it's just another stacked lineup. It's another stacked roster, and of course we got Alvaro Carton and Ishmael Fassi rounding it out. And you come across some great grids here and there, don't you, Rich? But you look at this and you think, my word, how have we been so blessed into this?
We do indeed. This grid is absolutely brilliant. And before we get in towards qualifying, as we're loading in, we'll have a little look at a lap attack of the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. Here's a hot lap of the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya circuit here on the F123 game. Heading down towards turn 1 on this 4.6 kilometre circuit. Quite a long run in towards that first corner, braking just on that grey curb on the left hand side before throwing the car in down to 5th gear, back on the power on the exit as you fly through up in towards turns 2 and turn 3. Keep tight to the inside before running out wide, getting ready to prepare yourself for that turn 4, braking yet again around that 50 metre board before shifting it down to 4th or 5th gear, getting back on the power on the exit, flying it through down towards this downhill section at turn 5. Obviously very easy to lock up into this section, back on the power on the exit. You head yourself up towards a TV3 chicane. Very easy to get it mixed up here. Very easy to hop that curb on the right hand side and spin your car around. But you can see taking it very nicely and taking it without too much risk. Up towards turn 9 before hitting the DRS zone down towards turn number 10. Braking just after that 100 metre board. Throwing it down to 4th gear. Getting back on the power on the exit. Hitting that apex nicely on the entry. And then you pull it round towards turn number 12. Obviously before you get to the penultimate corner at turn 13, the newly renovated part of this circuit. Throw it to the right before throwing it to the right once again for the final corner where you get to see what your lap time will be. Here's a hot lap. Right, everyone, welcome back. Heading now in towards the qualifying session. I hope you liked that little lap attack video, something I tried recently. Of course, thanks to Sixton, who recorded that for me and got it sent over. Big thanks indeed. But it's wet, Josh. A wet qualifying here at Spain in Q1. Now, this is going to be interesting, isn't it?
It certainly will be. It's going to throw a couple spanners in the works. But it is nice to see a couple of the cars deciding to go out. And, of course, Max Wiesel's going to be the first car out of the garage. The wily old veteran knows his way around a slightly damp circuit on the intermediate tyres. Same as everyone in this, but he's more than willing to go and give it a shot and sort of see how it's going to warm up on the track, let's say. And I'm sure you'll be able to see maybe a little bit of a dry line appearing towards the end of Q3. But, of course, that depends if the rain's going to stop at the end of the day. None of us know. It could very well stay wet for the remainder of his qualifying and perhaps even into the start of the race.
Indeed, I think the rain's going to be very temperamental as usual. So we'll see if it does dry up towards the end, but the chances are it probably won't. It will get more wet. But obviously we're here for round 3, but round 2 was a bit of an eventful one. Coming towards the end of the race, it was Otis Lance who took victory, but unfortunately for that collision there with Reese Linton to the final corner, he got himself a 3-second penalty, which dropped him down to P10. A 3-second penalty dropped him down 9 positions. So Veloce Academy came home with very little points compared to what they could have gotten, which obviously then promoted Shanna Clay onto the podium with Ishmael Fassi and Reese Linton, of course, who took victory. But another key thing was F7R had a penalty removal for Tiger Hardy, which popped him up into P4. So F7R still looking strong. They're second in the championship, and still, Josh, we've got 2 community teams sitting first and second here.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic seeing the sort of, admiration of these teams. Some of them might have written them off, especially from last season here at E-Series, where we saw Ferrari dominance, basically from start to finish in the championship. But they've come out swinging, haven't they, the QT teams? They don't want to just lie back and let these, top dog teams, the Race Clutch, the Williams, the Ferraris, the Veloces, having their way with the field and running rampant on it. They're more than happy to stick it to them, and so far it's been working very well for them. Of course, only 4 points separating the top 3. I've had Williams aren't that far off as well, and of course you've got to mention Ferrari, currently down in P5, only on 55 points. Now, is that representative of their true pace? By no means. They DNF'd last race as well. It's very unfortunate. So they'll be looking to try and get bounce back here once again. Around the circuit of Catalunya, a circuit that all the drivers are going to be familiar with, although they don't do, the real-life testing that the Formula 1 teams do. They certainly do use this as kind of a benchmark circuit to get a little bit of practice, a little bit of prep on before they end up jumping into some of the races. And of course, they would have done an ample amount of practice in the week leading up to this Grand Prix as well.
Indeed, but I don't think many of them would have practiced in the wet conditions. So this will be a little bit of a surprise for many of the drivers here on the grid. We can see Max Wiesel coming through in towards the final part of this circuit, having a bit of a twitch around with the car. Obviously, we'll see what that promotes, whether it's going to get dry towards in the Q2 and Q3. That could be why he's opted for a drier setup. Otherwise, he might just be having a bit of a struggle here so far at the start of Q1 as he comes through up towards the line. What will it be for Max Wiesel? A 1:22.021 to open up the session. We've got a few more cars coming through, of course. Alex Santana, the teammate of Max, heading through into the final corner now. We'll see what he can do as he heads up towards the line. What will it be for Alex Santana? Goes to the top by 4 seconds, which definitely indicates that Max must have made a massive mistake on his lap, but he's been beaten by 4 whole seconds here.
Yeah, well, I mean, looking from the timing tower I've got here, it does certainly seem like he took it very easy into Sector 1. He'd lost out 5 tenths to his teammate there, so perhaps it was more of just a cautionary lap, just trying to get a little feel for the track under the wet conditions, and maybe just trying to work in potentially a dry setup, depending on how the race is going to be, forecast out. And just trying to warm himself up to the circuit. But of course, we've got so many other drivers on a lap. We've got Sixten Lindhart approaching this final corner, turn 13. It should be flat, but it's not quite anymore as he goes with a 1:18.4. So we could start seeing these lap times slowly start whittling away and get better and better as this session goes on, as Louis Welch does exactly that and finds 3 attempts out of the bag.
Indeed, there. Brilliant lap from Louis Welch, of course, racing the Aston Martin last season for SRT. Obviously, being Streamline Racing Team, not obviously here this season, is here for SRC, which is the Sim Racing Centre's esports team. And Max Wiesel there, little bit naughty to go to the top. He went a little bit wide and kept it wide to the line. We'll see if that gives him any implications afterwards, but it'll be a 1:17.915 there from the TF10 driver. If you remember, back a couple of weeks ago in PSGL PCF, Max took pole by 4 tenths, I believe it was, in the wet conditions. So he's quick here. He's very quick. He's proven it against the best of the best. So I think him taking pole here tonight, especially if it stays wet, is far from a surprise. We have a few more cars coming through on laps. We've got the 2 TESs of Franek Moraviak and Jan Halliday now. They're heading through in towards that middle sector now. We'll have a little look at Franek's time as he heads down in towards turn 10. And of course, yet again, we've got these brilliant brand new sponsor boards, which every track we go to, Josh, they get better and better.
They're gorgeous. You gotta love them. You've got so many different varieties of colours between all the 3 sponsors of GT Omega PSGL. Dare I say, it's a lot better than looking at the horrible Aramco blue and green side, in my opinion. I'm just not a fan of that. I prefer to see a little bit more variety. And boy, does the PSGL sponsorship pop as Franek Morawiec comes across the line with a 1:18.3. But I do just want to point out, we've got a couple drivers in the pit lane who have decided to tease us a little bit by putting on a soft compounded tyre. They're being a little cheeky. I don't expect them to run it, but they're certainly trying to tease it out of us at a minute.
Well, we'll see them out try and run it. I'm sure we normally see a couple of drivers go for that sometimes. So we'll see what that presents to us, as we can see a few more cars on laps. Lenny Papinta, of course, with Joris Kroos and the 2 teammates over at Race Clutch, arguably one of the stronger lineups here tonight. Maybe even one of the, if not the strongest lineup here tonight for E-Series round 3 at Spain. We'll see what they can do as we can see Lenny heading up towards turn 12, though. It's very wide. That's going to lose him an ample of time through there. In towards turn 13, he comes through now. We'll see what he can do on this final section. It doesn't look like the most comfortable run here from Lenny at all as he heads out the final corner. What will it be for Mr. Papinta? Up to the line, goes into P4, splitting the 2 TES drivers. Then we've got Joris Krozen as well, heading through the final corner. What can he do as he has a bit of a downshift, it seemed, through the final corner. He goes up into second there, just 10,000ths back from Max Wiesel with a 1:17.926. And we're starting to see now a few more cars come out, Josh, but none of them yet on a set of the softs.
Yeah, it seems like they've all kind of understood this weather's not going to get any better throughout the qualifying session, so they're all just tiptoe their way around on outlaps and just hoping and praying that, this little constant downstream of rain we seem to have here is going to last just for that little bit longer so they can get those inters in a proper operating window, because of course we've only got 10 minutes left of a session. That might seem like a lot of time, but if you add in the in-laps, the out-laps, the actual flying laps as well, all of a sudden, those 10 minutes look like 2 real competitive runs in comparison to what could be 1 competitive run if a track immediately decides to do its favourite feature of this game and disappear or disperse all the water like Moses in the Red Sea. It could very well happen. But something I also want to point out, which we'll notice with a lot of these drivers, doing fast laps is they're tiptoeing between turns 10 and turns 11, which of course is where Nick de Vries had a couple spins, because there is a small river on the track which flows there, and it creates that little bit of a puddle. It can cause the back end to step out just a little bit, so we're going to have to keep a special eye on that one. But I do believe we're going to get some of these drivers starting their flying laps, and Shananka Clay, dare I say, probably one of the most on-form drivers here in E-Series, is starting his lap, so it'll be interesting to see what he's able to conjure up here.
Indeed, we'll go on board with Shanaka as he heads up in towards that first sector now at turns 3 and turns 4. Normally you go quite tight to the inside, but in the wet you want to go a little bit more wide to let you open the wheel up a little bit more as you head down in towards that fourth corner. Obviously a 23.0 for the first sector here for Shanaka as he has a big slide as he heads down in towards turn 5, breaking around the 50 metre board, and a bit of a scruffy first sector here for Shanaka as he heads down now towards the TV3 chicane. Obviously wanted to break a little bit late down to fourth gear, back on the power on the exit. You head your way up now through and towards turn number 9, keeping it to the inside, using that apex as a bit of a, you know, to give yourself a bit of rotation through the corner, as we saw Tima Zelenkiewicz go up into P3 there, obviously with an 18.024. And Shanaka, Josh, it's been a decent lap, but he's definitely got time to find here.
Yeah, it's just going to be one of those things of building the confidence up. As you mentioned, they might not have done as much practice in the wet, if any at all. So they're just going to have to find where that pace is and where they're going to be able to extract the most of it, as you see Shananka Clay. Full bravery, using that little bit of AstroTurf. He's not worried about the grip. He's done a little bit more rain practice, so he knows he can find a little bit of additional time there. And with the purple Sector 1, he looks like he could very well be one of the drivers to keep an eye on for this session. But Alex Santana directly behind does just as good. And of course, we're going to start seeing these drivers roll through with purple lap times as they kick up more and more water on this race surface. It'll just help and give those intermediate tyres something to really grip on, not necessarily having to push as much water out the way using the tread of the tyres, and really be able to get contact with that beautiful track surface that they can get.
Indeed it will, and we see the two Ferraris going for a bit of a slow lap there so far. We need to try and find someone who's on a flying lap. We got Declan Barrett, who's unfortunately invalidated. Ishmael Fassi goes to the top there by 2.5 tenths of a second with a 1 minute 17.528 ahead of Lenny Papinsa in second place. Further back we can see Alvaro Carlton also beginning in a lap now for the Williams team as Jan Halliday goes into second there with a 7.38 just ahead of Lenny, of course. In P2 we can see Fernand Moraviak, he's on a lap currently on a 1 minute 18.3 at the moment, has to find some key time there in that lap. He comes through in towards turn 4, up by 2 tenths in that first sector alone, looking strong so far. Here is TS, a bit of a snap of the rear there as he heads down in towards turn 5, late on the brakes, keeps it to the inside on the exit, rides wide, very nice so far here from Franek as he heads up now in towards the high speed, or what would you say, uphill chicane. Very easy to get it wrong through there. You could see he went a little bit wide, went a bit too deep into the corner, and now Josh, the DRS is enabled. What do the drivers do here?
Surely, if they're on a lap, you go through, you finish the lap, you've got 6 minutes. Everyone should be able to get a soft compound run in if they so desire. But at the same time, you look at this track, it still looks very, very wet, but we know what this game can be like. We know as soon as that DRS is enabled and as soon as that option comes on, the track is normally quicker on the dries. With Franek there, just taking a little bit too much of that outside curb and invalidating his lap time, which is certainly going to be a key feature throughout this qualifying session. Keep an eye on the exit of turn 12 heading into turn 13 because there's an ample opportunity you can invalidate. Very similar with going a little bit too wide and maybe catching a bit of a gravel at turn 4 in Repsol. It'll certainly be something you're going to have to keep an eye on and just be careful. I'm sure the drivers all have it in the back of their mind.
Indeed they do, and also further back we saw Kamil Saja have a bit of a spin on the exit at turn 13, luckily not getting in the way of anyone as Louis Welch to the top of the times with a 1:17.334 there. You can see the track is getting better and better now, and as I'm looking through, I'm starting to see the rain more disappear on our screens than it did before. I'm actually starting to think some areas of the circuit might have lost that rain, which is now key to get yourself possibly onto a set of soft tyres. We can see now a few drivers with them all selected on their games. We've got 5 minutes left to go here before we end off this session. Oh, it's going to be a close ending to Q1 here. And yet again, Josh, it's going to be one of those where it's literally the last across the line will be quickest. The first across the line will probably be the slowest.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very tough, especially for the driver like Louis Welch, who's currently at the back of this pack, which is still out on the intermediate tyres. So he's going to have to push this in lap to, you know, a whole new level to try and get back in and get enough of an operating window, because the last thing he wants to do is be forced out in the middle of the pack where all of them are fighting for that last little bit of track position they can find. That's the last thing he wants to do, because he wouldn't be able to set up a proper installation lap, and he won't be able to get his tyres in the right operating window. But I'm sure the SRC team behind him, the engineering staff, are telling him this. They're always feeding information back. That's something you've really got to give credit to these drivers. It's one thing to do a quick lap, but it's a whole other ball game to do these laps when you've got a person constantly feeding you information about what's going on, what other people are doing, how the strategy is going to work, how to change it, what lines you should, to every little thing like that gets feeded back to these drivers so they can make the best possible decisions. And it takes a whole different cognitive brain thought to, sort of do it to this level. It's fantastic.
And I think, the RHG, VA, and S7R engineers have taken a little bit of a difference to the others, because they haven't really been out at all. I believe we had Declan Barrett go out for a lap, but none of the others there in that bottom 6 have been out at all. So it's all down to see what they can do to try and knock some cars out of Q1. And I think with the fact they already haven't set laps, I think we're pretty much guaranteed probably to see at least one of those 6 out here in Q1, of course. So obviously now the pressure is on absolutely everybody. Normally, if you're sitting at the top after the first 50 minutes, you're like, right, we can, we may be retired, we can just have a bit of a relax. But in this position, that is not the case at all. You've got to get straight back out and push as hard as you can. Louis got a bit of a gap to the others, so yes, he can afford to stay through if others make mistakes. But if that isn't the case and people still improve, Louis got no chance of staying in with that time.
Yeah, exactly. It's a risk and it's a gamble, which I'm sure the SRC team won't want him to take, because of course they are currently leading the standings by the 1 point to F7R. It's very, very close so far in this championship. Of course, we're only in round 3 here, but you got to think, maybe if a good qualifying session goes their way, they could be looking at starting on the front row, maybe in the top 4 as well for both cars. And the last thing they would want is a driver dipping out in Q1, as we could start seeing a little bit of movement in the TF10 garage, and I believe that'll be Max Wiesel coming out. Dare I say,
yeah.
we might have a bit of a squabble going on for a bit of track position at the end of this lap. So we could be in for a little bit of racing here in Q1, but of course it'll just be a little jockey for position. No points up for grabs here just yet.
We could be indeed. We can see the cars now heading out onto the circuit. We'll go on board with one of the Sabres. So we can see them heading out the pits. Obviously, Thomas Ronhard obviously making an appearance here for the RHG team. And you can see everyone just trying to fight for position out the pits. The track is pretty much dry, and well, about 30 seconds ago, when we last looked at the track, it was wet. And that is the brilliance here of F1 23. The track changes in a split of a second from going to wet to dry, meaning now, obviously the lap times will be getting better, but we're still going to be nowhere near the optimal times, meaning the track is going to improve the whole time these runs are underway, obviously getting more rubber on the track, getting more heat into the circuit, and obviously getting more of a dry line. This is going to be a very interesting end to Q1 indeed. We can see, obviously, Ronhard coming through, making a bit of an overtake there. One of the McLarens, obviously being the Veloce Academy team. Further ahead, it seems that NVR want to get on with it. No messing around for that team over there in the Hasses. They want to get their laps done and try and see where they can place their cars. Obviously, Sixten Lindhart leading the pack away, obviously with Timo Zelenkiewicz in behind, and then Shanaka Clay in P7. He's also looking to get on with it quite early. And then Josh, just look at the back of the grid here. Someone is going to get disqualified. This is not good signs at all.
No, no one wants to see it, right? No one wants to see these cars all trying to squabble for, the perfect and optimal window. Yes, it can be entertaining watching these cars go side by side, pedal to the metal. But unfortunately, it's not bad. They're all just crawling around at the minute, and they will have to be careful about those 5-place grid penalty drops. Of course, the penalties don't stack. We do restart the lobby, so they don't really mean too much. But if you end up getting disqualified because of it, could be looking in for a whole world of hurt, as we're seeing them still go side by side. But a person who's already decided to go and kick off this soft run is Sixten Lindhart, as he finds a whole second in that first sector from his previous best. As I believe you're still watching them all squabble, aren't you?
I was. I'm going to look back at Sixten now, so we can actually see you see some cars actually get on with some racing, or at least some qualifying, and you can see them all now piling out the final corner. They're going to get on with their laps at this current time. But still on board here with the NVR driver of Sixten Lindhart heading through in towards turn 9 now. Gets a bit of DRS, which he didn't get earlier on, meaning he will definitely improve on this sector too. He's up by 2.2 seconds so far. So still nowhere near the optimal lap times here around this circuit, but we're getting ever so closer as the laps come through, and you start to think now, will this be safe for Sixten to get through in towards Q2 here for NVR. He comes through in towards turn 13, in towards turn 14. The track will evolve way much more than where it will be now for him. To the line he goes. It will go to the top with a 1:14.489. Then we've got his teammate. Teamer heading down in towards turn 10 as well. He's also up by just over 2 seconds. So it seems at the moment the track's getting better and better. I'm not sure Sixton's going to get through comfortably with that time.
I mean, it's getting better and better throughout the entire grid. Louis Welsh there as well. He's 4 tenths up from Sixton in Sector 1. So you can just see that track evolution sort of playing into fruition, and you can see the reason why they were all fighting and squabbling to get further in, into the pack, because these lap times are just going to fall away as we've got Shanky Clay now with a 1:13.7 and Louis Welsh with a 1:13.6. These lap times are drastically falling because of the track evolution. So I expect to see these drivers hop all the way further up towards that front.
Indeed, we can see a few more cars coming through. Max Wiesel to the top there. We got Lenny Papinta heading through the final corner. Bradley Holdham into P5. Xander Van Darken into P6. Thomas Ronhart into P12. Lenny Papinta into Voldackl into third. Puts him now down to P4. As Ismail Fassi goes to the top. Well, wasn't that a climatic end to Q1? And we saw, I believe it was Ismail Fassi who took the fastest time there after the first qualifying session. And I don't know who we lost, but we'll have a little murmur down at the bottom, and it will be one of the race clutches going out, along with Camel Sasha for Ferrari. One of the Red Bulls, of course, being TF10's Alex Santana, and the 2 NVRs of Teema and Sixton. I think we all know they went out a little bit too early there. But a big surprise, Joris Krozen, a driver who's been, a hot topic recently, now out in Q1. He's going to be struggling through because he's got to start from P16, and Race Clutch, they're third in the standings. They can't afford to have a qualifying like this.
Yeah, it's exactly like I was saying with SRC. It's also tight in this championship that any sort of blow like this for, an SRC, an F7R, a Race Clutch, a Williams or a Ferrari, or, even maybe a TF10, they're slightly further off the back, but it's not what they want. It's not what any of these teams want. They always want to try and get through out of the Q1. It might sound like a bit of a Will Buxton comment. That's because it is. No one wants to be down in that bottom 5, especially when, you take into consideration they had an opportunity to sort of jostle for position. But again, it's just one of those things where if you're not in the right time, you can't find a place. And look at Thomas Ronhar as an example. No one can question his pace. He's an absolute phenomenal driver. We know it all here at PSGL. We've seen it before. Absolutely pure rapid. But again, he was only P15. And that's just because he couldn't find that perfect window on track to try and put in a better lap time. That's Indeed. How much time we could potentially be looking at losing there. So it's down, I wouldn't even say it's pace-wise to a lot of these drivers. It was just unfortunate timing with the circuit.
Of course, we can now see a few onto circuit there to begin with their first runs of Q2. A lot of drivers out early with those brand new soft tyres, of course. And in the terms of the standings, obviously, TES are going to be happy with this. They're going to have both drivers starting at least in the top 15. They're last in the standings. They're about 12 points back from TF10 in P6. So yes, they're 10th, but they're only a little bit back off P6. So, if they can get a decent result in tonight, get both into Q3, they could be looking strong to work in their way through the standings. Obviously, as well, we know it's SRC who leads from F7R and Race Clutch in third. Obviously, just 4 points separating those. But Williams as well, Josh, only 5 points back from Race Clutch. So they're still, I think that's nearly, they're only about 9 points back from the top. So, Williams, they can get a pole position with Ismail Fassi tonight, maybe, as, he's proved in Q1 he's quick. This could be also not for Williams to try and take that championship lead. It's going to be unlikely, but definitely not far from impossible at all.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at last week around Belgium as well, Ismail Fassi showed he wasn't just a pole position merchant. He wasn't the Charles Leclerc of esports. He actually converted to a great result on the podium as well. It's going to be very, very interesting. That hurt me a lot to say, by the way. I am a Ferrari fanboy. It hurt me an awful lot to say, but we know he's quick in qualifying. We know he's got some of his best results out of qualifying windows and in the time trials. He's very, very quick over one lap, but he's also converting it now into the race pace, which is absolutely critical for Williams in E-Series here to make sure he can maximize every single, pole position, front row start he can possibly get, and it's going to be fantastic watching him sort of construct this race around him, but he's just got to be careful to not overdo it on these laps. Get the installation lap in, give it a couple push laps after that. That's the way he's got to start thinking.
Of course, and we're on board now with Ismail Fassi heading through in towards that first set. So now up towards turn number 3 before he heads in towards that turn number 4 at the end of the first sector. It's a 21.454 for Ismail Fassi. Definitely big improvements from the last session. earlier on in Q1, obviously with the track now being bone dry as he heads down towards turn number 5. Back now on the power on the exit, doing a very decent job so far on this opening run for Q2. Up towards that high speed uphill chicane. Obviously got to be very careful not to overdo the car too much into that before you hit to turn 9. Obviously using that curve on the inside to pull the car around as well to carry more minimum speed. Down now in towards turn 10. It's a 49.888 for Ishmael Fassi in that first and second set to split. So looking decent so far it is for the Williams as he heads round now in towards turn 12 before the 2 final corners at the penultimate turn 13, then to turn 14. But Ishmael Fassi, Josh, I don't think he needs to worry about this lap being too terrible. If he might be a quick lap, but he doesn't need to worry either way. But the final run to where it counts into 10.7 to opening up, I'd say that's a very decent banker lap there from Ishmael.
Yeah, absolutely stellar. And Alvaro Carton coming across the line as well with yet again another stellar lap time from the Williams outfit. I feel like we could get used to saying that one, but Nicolas Longuet decides to put his hat in the ring, so to say, and has also done a brilliant lap time there. I mean, we've got a great split of drivers here, and we're all finding pace in different parts of the track. We got Nicolas Longuet with purple sector 1, Ishmael Fassi with purple sector 2, and then Alvaro Carton with purple sector 3. All of them are finding pace in different parts of the circuit compared to each other. I feel like this is building up for a potentially absolute cracking Q3, just depending on which drivers are able to find that little bit of pace in the sectors others are also finding it. It's just going to build up to it, isn't it?
Indeed, and I think Q3, I think it's going to be one of those with so far the track being that, you know, the track's improving a lot, and I don't think into Q3 we need to worry. I think it might be sunny by the time we get into Q3, but with the times being so close at the moment, being what, 70 thousandths between P1 and P4 being obviously the two Williamses, along with Shanaka and Nico, I think the fight for pole could be between anyone on the grid. I think Lenny Pipinto as well, he's a driver we need to be keeping our eyes on to try and take pole. Thomas Ronhardt is another driver, Max Wiesel. There's so many drivers here who we can say have the pace to qualify on pole. It's going to be kind of one of those who, you know, maybe gets a bit of luck on their lap, maybe gets a bit of RNG to help them. I think that's, you know, that could be what it comes down to here in this qualifying session. Obviously, also not to count out Louis Welch, who's been doing, he's been on brilliant form as of recent, especially from what I've noticed over the past couple of months. Yes. So I think Q2 is going to be, you know, a lot of drivers are going to be under pressure. Thomas Ronhardt, a driver who we look to be taking pole, but he's not looking that strong. P15 in Q1, 2/10 off the fastest time here in Q2 so far. He's not looking too confident, I don't think, here so far tonight.
No, but again, it's exactly like you said, you can't rule any driver out. Perhaps they may have gone out on that scrub set from Q1 as well. You can't really, like, pinpoint it, to be quite honest with you, because any one of these drivers can end up pulling 3-4 temps out of nowhere. And I feel like maybe one of the best strategies to go for is doing what Lenny Pipinto's doing here and running slightly different to the rest of the group, just to ensure you can get a little bit of a clean time on track, so you can just focus on your lap, not having to worry about building a gap, you know, keeping distance to the car in front to make sure the dirty air doesn't get wafted towards you. Just doing your own thing, just going out there. Yes, you might not potentially get a toe down the main straight. Yes, you might not be able to really try and judge for braking points, but the way these drivers religiously practice on this game, they've got so many hours, they know every single braking point, the turning points, everything. They know how much throttle to input, when and where to do it, how to do it, how to downshift into certain corners to get the rotation. They know everything, and it's absolutely fantastic. So if I was a driver with, you know, the quality of a Lenny Pipinto, of a Thomas Ronhardt, of a Louis Welch, I wouldn't be afraid to go slightly different. And to be quite honest with you, Lenny Pipinto's made it work because he's gone purple in that middle sector.
He has, yeah, and he's looking very strong on this run here as he comes through in towards the final couple of corners. Turn 13, then turn 14. We'll see what Lenny can do. Will it be a time to put him at the top? He's looking quick, and he goes up towards the top there with a 6.93, a little bit quicker there than Nicolas Longuet. And Lenny Pipinto looking strong going through in towards the closing stages of Q2, of course, which will be in around 5 minutes' time. We've got everyone out on an out lap, apart from Lenny, of course, who's just finished his lap. So, well, we'll see what the drivers can do. And yet again, Veloci Academy and F7R leaving it late. They didn't go out at the start like they did in Q1. They left it a little bit longer, and they're going to do it again here in Q2. And we'll see what they can manage to cook up here in this session. But, of course, I think Veloci Academy, a team that obviously finished second, I believe, last season in Series 2. They also did well as Parnell Racing before back in Season 1. I think they're a team that are going to be quite disappointed so far this season. In the first two races, only 34 points, putting themselves 8th in the championship. That's definitely not what they want to. It's a little bit like looking at Mercedes Aero, where they've gone from being at the top now to, even though they're finishing in, you know, decent results, they're not really not really proud at all of what they managed to achieve so far.
Yeah, it's one of those things, it started out so good for them. They've, put the bar so high, and now, it's slightly falling away. But you've got to realise that the pedigree that this team has, obviously being Parnell Racing, coming from, the work that Liam did with them, and understanding the pedigree of this team, they want to get back to winning ways, very similar to what Mercedes were like, right? They want to get back to that winning way. They've got the, the capability, they've got the drivers, they've got the team behind them. They have everything in their power. They just need a little bit of lady luck, a little bit of a rub of a green, and they're going to be absolutely flying in this championship, shooting at the standings. I believe with a driver lineup like Bradley Holdham and Declan Barrett out in force here today, I reckon they've got a very good chance to shoot themselves up a couple of positions here in the standings.
Yeah, indeed. I think they've definitely got the opportunity. Obviously, Declan Barrett, people know who he is. Obviously, he used to race as Smokey back on the Xbox platform, along with obviously lots of Otis Lawrence. He was one of the quickest, if not the quickest as well. So he's a driver that come on to PC, and yet again, it didn't really phase him having that switch. As Bradley Holden goes to the top there with a 1:10.593, brilliant lap time there from the McLaren. Max Wiesel now goes quicker with a 0.561, brilliant lap time from him as well. And we can see what can Declan do. Can he go to the top? No, he will go just behind his teammate, 2,000 separating the two Veloce Academies into P3. And Xander Van Dyken now to the top, of course, with a 10.469. A few more cars coming through the two F7Rs. Heading towards the line, Nando Moreira first. He goes into P6. What about Tycho Hardy? He goes into P3. Then we've got Thomas Ronhard coming through. He goes fastest with a 10.419. We've got a few more cars coming through. Jan Halliday into P9. We can see Shanaka Clay go into P3. What about Franat Moraviak? Can he get himself into that top 10 comfortably as Ismail Fassi goes into third? Moraviak only 14th, and we can see now, look at that, Josh. VA down to 9th and 10th already.
Yeah, by, 1 3/4 of a tenth. It's ridiculous. This is exactly what we were saying. With all of these drivers and the quality we've got on show here, any one of these drivers could potentially bang it on pole. Any of these drivers could get knocked out in Q2. It's because it is so close, because there is such little hard braking points around this circuit. All of them know exactly where to do it, so there's going to be even less time to be able to try and make up in the braking zone. So a lot of it's going to come down to setup and sort of the way the drivers handle the car. As we see Lenny Papinta rolling out the pits now, he's already heading up into that little complex by the TV cameras. So it'll be interesting to sort of see what he's going to be able to do, because of course there's only 4 minutes and 50 left on this session. So has he kind of outrun himself? Because at the minute he's P13 and he did a very, very good starting lap, didn't he, in Q2? But is he going to be able to capitalise on this opportunity he's got with a fresh bit of, air in front of him on track? Is it really going to be the play, or has he kind of set him up for failure? I mean, I feel like we're only going to be able to find out in a matter of time, but please let us know in chat who you think is going to get knocked out of this Q2 session, because it is very, very close, and I feel like any one of these drivers could potentially be at risk. I wouldn't want to retire if I was, even if I was Thomas Ronhar, I wouldn't feel comfortable retiring.
But then again, a 10.4 as quick as it, but I suppose you've also got to think of the fact that it's only 2/10 back in towards P11. So yeah, we'll see what Thomas Ronhart chooses to do, of course. But I think he's a driver, no matter the situation, he can worm his way out of it. As we can see, Lenny Papinta now heading down towards turn 4. We'll see if he can improve in that first sector. He does so by 15 thousandths of a second, looking strong so far on this run as he heads down in towards turn number 5. Braking late, just coasting the car in, back on the power nice and early on the exits as he heads his way up now in towards turn numbers 6 and 7 at the TV3 chicane. Just throwing the car through and just trying to carry as much speed as he can possibly in that Alpine car as he heads in towards turn 9, down towards turn 10, of course, with some DRS. Is he up in that middle sector? He's up, oh no, he's down. This is not good at all for Lenny Papinta now. If he's down in this second sector and down in the third, surely he'll be heading back into pits and going again.
Yeah. Surely just dive it in the pits, call it there, and decide, hey, you know what, it'll be better if I go out of the rest of the grid. I don't feel like I'm going to be able to maximise the lap time, and he does exactly that, as you see the beautiful sponsor board once again. Another shameless plug, dare I say, but he decides to put it back into the pits, and I'm sure he'll be hopping off those set of soft compound tyres as soon as he can, because there's only 3 minutes left of the session. With the changes of this track layout, it's a little bit quicker overall, isn't it? Because you got rid of that chicane. The lap times now, we're looking at 1:10, so they've got a little bit of a window here where they can wait and they can try and see which drivers are going to be, the first ones out. And we're already starting to see that. We're seeing the drivers slowly start crawling out, but again, expect a little jockeying for position, because the last place you want to be is towards the front of the field. kind of breaking in the air for the cars behind you, especially if they're going to be following a little closer than perhaps a Q1. I feel like there could be a lot up to chance here. But Louis Welsh is the first car out on track, and we'll have to see if he's going to stay the first car out on track.
Indeed, and we can see both the RHGs 8 on circuit, so they also think they might not be safe with those 10.4s here at the moment. So yet again, we're into a situation where everyone is at risk here in this session. We got Louis Welch going to be first out to break that barrier and try and get himself through in towards Q3. But the worst part about Louis is now, he can go and set himself into P5 after this lap and think, P5, it's nice, but he's got so many drivers behind him who will also be looking for improvements. He could be knocked down straight again, so it kind of loses you so much motivation if he gets to the top and gets knocked down. But we'll see, of course, what Louis can do. He's been around for a long time. One of the most, I think, one of the most OG drivers here on this PSGL E-Series grid, so I think he's going to be able to hopefully get himself through into towards that top 10, along with his teammate, Shannon Clay, who, of course, is doing a very good job up in P4 with a 1 minute 10.498. So he should also be looking to comfortably get his way through in towards Q3. Obviously, Nando Moreira, they're getting himself a 5-place grid penalty. He's then in P12, so he would like to get it through into Q3 for S7R, who have had brilliant form so far this season. I don't think a form that anyone would have expected here, Josh. Absolutely brilliant so far.
Yeah, they've been on their own little tear, haven't they? Obviously, they got the podium in Baku at the race start of it last week. They also got a P4 as well, so they've been there and thereabouts up towards the front of the field. But it's only going to be a matter of time before the form eventually runs out for all of these drivers on the grid. But Louis Welsh is trying to make it one dance here for SRC and getting himself out of this Q2 session and looking to put on his absolute A game heading into Q3. But he's going to have to pull out a stellar lap here as he finds a slight improvement through Sector 1, but he's going to have to find a little bit more than that if he wants to guarantee himself safety into Q3, because of course, as you mentioned, we've got a whole gaggle of cars coming through Sector 3 at the minute. You can see on the mini-map, all of them are going to be filing through, and all of them are going to be looking to try and get into that top 10. But of course, there's only 10 places remaining. We will have to say goodbye to 5 of these drivers in this session, and Louis Welsh is doing everything he possibly can to make sure it's not him.
Yeah, he's up by 2 tenths, so in that middle sector, that isn't enough at this current point to get himself out of that bottom 5, so he needs to find at least a 10th in this final sector, and also we'd like to find probably another 10th for a bit of a cushion going through, obviously, with everyone else coming on with their laps as he heads into the final corner. What would it be for Louis Welch here? Is it enough to get himself out of that Q2 drop zone, up to the line, goes into P5? That might be safe, but then again, you can't really call it at all because everyone is improving. Thomas Ronhar heading through in towards turn number 14. We'll see, can he get himself any higher than a 1 minute 10.419? Up to the line he goes, and he doesn't improve. What about Xander Van Dyken? Is he down or is he up as he heads to the line? He doesn't improve either, Josh. So not many people finding that improvements when they're already on that quick lap time.
Exactly. Now you're going to have to keep a special eye out for the likes of Tycho Hardy, who's swinging it through this final corner to see if he's going to be able to jump up any further. Max Wiesel does. He jumps P2, and Tycho Hardy jumps up to P3. All of a sudden, that Louis Welsh lap time doesn't look as safe as it once did, as Declan Barrett dives it into the pits there as well, invalidated his lap time, so he's called it there, so he'll be out of this session. Now Bradley Holdham's looking to try to make an improvement. Is he able to? He finds himself P10, he's just on the cusp. But you've got to imagine, with the likes of Nicholas Longe, Lenny Papinta, and Franek Morawiak, he could be in a lot of trouble here.
Oh.
No! Bradley Holdham has snuck his way into Q3 there!
Well, isn't that brilliant? And I thought for a second he might not be through. I thought Louis Welch might not be through with his lap time, but absolutely brilliant there from Bradley Holdham. Obviously, between Louis and I think it was down to P14, Lenny Papinta, I think it was. Only a 10th separating them all. Very close margins at the bottom part of that Q2 session. And we can see as well, F7R on absolute form. They're looking to try and take the championship lead here today. I don't want to say it because I don't want to jinx them, but they're looking, they're looking really, really strong.
They're looking strong. They've came here to tussle. But of course, we do have to say goodbye to some drivers. And of course, we will be saying goodbye to Nicholas Longe, Jan Halliday, Lenny Papinta, Declan Barrett, and Franek Morawiak, who are all dipping out of this Q2 session. But we have to give credit where credit's due. And that, of course, goes to Thomas Ronhar, Max Wiesel, Nando Moreira, Tycho Hardy, Xander Van Dyken, Ishmael Fassi, Alvaro Carreton, Shananka Clay, Louis Welsh, and Bradley Holdham for getting through into a very, very tight Q3. So, dare I ask chat now, who's your prediction for pole? I already saw one a little earlier saying Max Wiesel's for pole and the race win. That's very bold to predict the race win before we've even set a lap of racing. But Nathan Richards, like it's Nathanius Richardus.
Yes.
Who's your bet for pole position?
I'm going to go with... it's hard, isn't it? You know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to go a little bit outlandish here. I'm going to go with Bradley Holdham. He's got the luck on his side. I'm going to go with Bradley for pole because his gap to P1 was only a 10th in Q2. So it's not like he's miles off being in P10. So I think it's going to be Bradley on pole position here in this race or in this qualifying session. But of course, we want to know in the chat who you think will take pole position. I already see a message there in the chat saying Goatheart from Jason. So he, of course, I presume would say he wants Thomas Ronald to be on pole position going through in towards the race. And yet again, I don't think it's, I don't think it's much of a prediction that isn't going to be likely of winning. I think Ron Haar's one of those that I think is probably the most probable to take pole here tonight, along with Max Wiesel, of course.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you look at the talent in this top 10 here as well. You look at the talent over the top 20 in this session. I say that as if you can get out of the top 20, but you look at this entire grid and you think, my word, the amount of talent here, the amount of hours all of them combined to put into the game is probably far and the most, it just goes to show how hardworking all these drivers are, always looking to find that minimal bit of advantage they can over the rest of the field. And Thomas Ronhaar is one of the most successful at finding that little bit of a window to find that time to make sure he can jump up and get himself into the shout of pole position here. Of course, we got Max Wiesel, and dare I mention, maybe potentially Tycho Hardy or a Nando Moreira also trying to dance their way into that front row, if not pole as well, because their form has been so impressive this season. Gonna have to keep an eye out for all of these drivers. I don't feel like it'd just be fair to point out one.
Well, of course, F7R, they had pole in the first race with Louis Valentine, obviously with that brilliant lap in Baku, so, it's definitely not unlikely that they can get it. They've shown it before, as we can see. Max Wiesel, though, entering back into the pit, so a little bit of an early... that wasn't really much of a lap, was it, Josh?
No, it might have been a bit of gamesmanship, just trying to tease a couple of the cars out, but as soon as he realised no one was going to follow him, he called it back into the pits. I mean, it was presumably a scrub set. I would hope it would be, at least. Just maybe doing a little bit of a tease to some of the other drivers, just trying to coax them out the box. But we do have one half of the SRC team currently leading the championship in Louis Welsh out on track, and he's taking it very, very gently and very cautiously on this out lap. If he goes any slower, his tyres might turn into ice blocks, but there's a reason why he's driving and I'm not. I'm sure he knows what he's doing. I'm sure his engineering team knows as well. But you've got to think, how are SRC going to be able to cope with the likes of F7R and Williams, both of them all three of them getting two drivers through into this Q3? They could be under quite a bit of pressure looking forward to the race. Yeah,
indeed. I think, SRC might be under the most pressure they've been through in this season. In the trend, obviously, with both of the SNR and Williams getting through. Race Clutch couldn't find both their drivers through, but then again, they got Lenny Papinter and Joris, which is always a very strong lineup to be facing against, obviously, Ferrari as well. Big shame for them to not have any cars here in Q3. Obviously, Camel got knocked out in Q1 and Nicholas got knocked out in Q2. And to think last season they was dominant. This season, definitely not the case. They're really struggling to find their bearings here in the Series Championship and mainly in the qualifying segment. So they need to go back to the drawing board and think, right, what are we not doing right in qualifying? Because that is the thing that's harming our championship. But we can see Louis Welch now heading down towards turn 1. He's beginning his opening lap of the session. A few more drivers on out laps. Well, pretty much everyone out the circuit on out laps apart from Louis. He heads down to turn 1 and this should be a decent banker here for the SRC driver.
Absolutely. You can see him now swinging his way through Renault. Turn 3. It feels like it never ends when you ride on board, doesn't it? But of course, he's going to make it absolutely beautifully. You can see him using all of the curb here. Absolute pure confidence coming from this veteran of the F1 scene, using all the curbs, using all the AstroTurf. He knows where the track limits are. He knows how to maximize the steering angle and make the car as open as possible heading into these corners, but yet still keeping the balance. It's absolutely fantastic. Get a little bit of traffic on the right-hand side. Won't disrupt him too much as you see him absolutely sending it up through turn 9 there before coming up to La Kiksa here at turn 10. Slightly changed. It's more open. You no longer have that horrible curb on the inside, but he still has a little bit of work to do here. It's looking like a brilliant lap so far, but he's got to make sure the rear keeps in check with the rest of the car. With a slight slide there heading into turn 12, but he's able to catch it, and he's going to be absolutely winging it through turn 13 here once again. With the DRS wide open, he comes across the line with a 10.4.
Yeah, brilliant lap time there from Lou to open up the session. We can see a few more cars on lap times there. We'll go on board with Bradley Holdham. He's in P5. He's next to cross the line, obviously, with Shanika Clay just in behind. But we'll see what can Bradley Holdham do here on this lap as he heads up in towards turn 9. A brilliant banker there from Louis Welch to open it up with the 10.444. That could be good enough to maybe see him in that top 7, top 8, even without setting a final lap here in this session as Bradley heads his way through in towards the final few corners, up in towards turn 12 at the uphill right-hander, misses the apex, so that's going to lose him a lot of time through there, in towards turns 13 and 14. I wouldn't say this has been the most comfortable lap here from the Valashe Academy driver, but he can still get himself a decent time on the board nevertheless as he heads up towards the line, goes into second with a 10.519, as we can see as well. The teammates of Louis Welch, obviously Shanika Clay, heading through in towards the final few corners. A bit of a hop on the curve on the inside. What will it be for Shanika? Goes to the top there by a little bit of a time to his teammate, a 110.425 for Shanika Clay. And then we've got the two F7Rs coming through. It'll be first being Tucker Hardy, followed by Nando Moreira.
Yeah, and this is where you got to expect them. On these banker laps, everyone just to set a comfortable lap they're happy with before they end up really trying to crank it up and find a little bit more time. And Tiger Hardy's done exactly that. He's found a 110.3. Brilliant stuff from him, but you're going to have to keep an eye on his teammate behind as Max Wiesel also hops up into P2 there. But was Nando Moreira able to put on the table? Again, it's another 0.3. It's very, very close here on these banker laps. Of course, you've got the R8G drivers now hopping through of Thomas Ronhar and Zander, P3 and P7 respectively, before we have both the Williams drivers rounding it out on this little, out lap, so to say, banker lap, whatever you wish to call it. Just making sure they all get a competitive lap time on the board before they can really start trying to push the limits of the track, trying to push it to the point where they're able to gain maybe an extra temp, maybe a couple temps here and there, just trying to weasel any time possible out of this track.
Indeed, and S7R looking to get another pole position here in this championship. A 10.325 is at the top of the timings for Tiger Hardy. Obviously, the team took the pole back in Azerbaijan, as we've previously mentioned. But they're looking again here to take it tonight. Could be 2 poles in 3 races here for the S7R team, which is something I don't think anyone really expected at all going through in towards this championship at all. So brilliant job here by the S7R team. Obviously, a lot of their drivers previously moving over from the PlayStation side, so you could also say their ex-PS team looking to be fighting at the top of the standings. Obviously, we can see Max Wiesel as well, very close behind. But when he's at Max, close behind to pole, he's either on pole or he's in second. He's never really anywhere else, is he?
No, he always finds himself in that position. And I've found him a little bit jealous because he always seems to find time. Regardless of when he goes into a track, he goes, "Oh, I hate this track. I'm not a fan. Don't like practicing it. Don't like racing it. It's not fun. I don't enjoy it." And then he also pulls out phenomenal laps around those tracks. He's always able to find something in his little bag of windows to make sure he can pull any sort of lap time around any sort of track, in any sort of car, to be quite honest with you. He's a phenomenal talent, and there's a reason why he's here in E-Series. For a man who does it as a hobby, he's certainly very, very good at it.
Indeed, and from a little bit of a word from someone, I've been told that Max lost nearly a second, pretty much, on his lap. So Matt's going to be looking for a, maybe midpoint 2 there. So I'm not going to say who told me, but I think the person knows exactly who I'm on about, who's told me that. So maybe Max Wiesel could be looking to get himself on top, or maybe a little bit of a scare from the TF10 team to, big up the team even more here in this qualifying session. But we can see as well, Ismail Fassi just heading back into the pit lane. Obviously, only 2 thousandths separating him and Max Wiesel in qualifying. Obviously, Max, we can see Thomas Ronhal, in 4th at a 0.37. He's only 30 thousandths back from Max. Then Nando, only 4 thousandths back from Thomas. This grid is so close. We can see the top, the top 6 separated by exactly a 1/10 of a second, and then the whole grid separated by just
ridiculous.
over 2. It's so close here, isn't it?
It's genuinely just a joke, honestly. At this point, I'm gonna have to go do a test on all the tyres to make sure we've not put PVA glue on them, because they seem to be finding so much time, and it's absolutely fantastic watching these drivers perform at the top of their game and trying to maximize everything out of these cars. It's brilliant to watch, and it's going to come down to a brilliant and cracking final lap. But I do believe that could be one of the cars rolling out the pit lane, and of course it's going to be the SRC car, but this time not of Louis Welsh, it's of Shananka Clay.
Indeed, and well, we'll see what SRC can cook up on these final laps. I'm sure Bob's there going to be looking to support them on for the final runs, but we can see now a few more cars coming out onto circuit. Shanaka Clay being first, obviously, with one of the Williamses behind. That might be Alvaro Carreton. It will be, of course, Alvaro Carreton, who's had a bit of a poor qualifying here so far in P10. 2/10 back off the top time, but I'm pretty sure he must be on an old set of tyres or he just made a massive mistake on his lap time, because he's also a driver who we can see looking to fight for pole position today. But I'm going to stick with my bet, obviously, being Bradley Holdham. Josh, who are you going to go with here for pole?
Oh, you know what? I feel like I've got to go for it. I've got to go big. I've seen a person bigging him up in chat. I'm going to have to go with Nando Moreira. You know, it's just something about these F7R drivers who've been on a great tear of form, and Nando, he's had brilliant form recently in E-Series and, of course, in the divisions here at PSGL. So I, for one, I'm going to have to give him a little bit of a backing, but we know how my backings quite often go. They quite often go backwards, so I'm just hoping he gets a lap time on the board here, to be quite honest with you. For me, that'd be better than pole, just knowing he's able to break my commentator's curse. But wholeheartedly, I do believe the F7R team could have something in store. But then again, you look at this grid, all of them do. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. But once again, we are going to ask you, chat, for your last-minute predictions here in Q3. Who's going to be able to grab pole? Who's going to be on the front row with them? Let us know in the chat, both on Twitch and YouTube. It's lovely having everyone here. But we've got Shanaka Clay rounding that final corner to start the end of this qualifying session. Let's see what he's able to cook up.
Well, here we are at the final laps here in Q3. Shanaka Clay first to break that barrier. He heads in towards turn 1. Very nice so far here from the SRC driver, and now the drivers will be pushing more than ever on these final runs. They've got nothing to lose here at this point in qualifying. As we can see, Shanaka head down towards the end of that first sector. Is he up on his time? Yes, he's by nearly a 10th. This is brilliant so far from Shanaka Clay. Could he be looking to try and put himself onto pole position from that P6 position at the moment into turn 5? Josh, at this point, they start to think anyone's going to take pole here.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the way Shanaka Clay's handling the car. He's got so much confidence. He's just flicking the car in left, right, wherever, and the car's just sticking. It's, to be quite honest with you, it's like my dog, you know, had an accident on the carpet because it's not coming out at all and it's stuck in there, and he's absolutely sticking this car to the circuit. It's absolutely fantastic to watch, but of course he's not the only one. We've got the drivers behind. We've got the Williams of Alvaro Carreton, who's also ragging the car around like it's, you know, it's just said something horrible about its mother. It's looking absolutely fantastic. Shanaka Clay still up. He's going to be coming across the line. We're going to see what sort of lap time he's able to put on the board, but he's not able to find a position improvement. He's improved on his lap time, but again, it's just not enough. We're 0.06 behind, but we're going to have to keep an eye on the Williams currently in P10. Alvaro Carreton coming through the final corner. He was up by a 10th out of that second sector. Is he going to be able to find a little bit more time? He absolutely does. Pipping Tiger Hardy's time by 1,000th. Blue Welsh still in P8, and then we've got the F7R cars. Of course, we're going to have my pick, Nando Moreira, coming across the line first. He's not able to improve, but Tygo Hardy ends up finding a bit of an improvement, making him clear in P1. But then, of course, we've got the R8G of Xander coming across the line, and then Bradley Holdham next. Jumps himself up into P7. Then we've got, I believe that's Ismail Fassi and Max Wiesel, both diving it in the pits, not happy with their laps or invalidating. And that only leaves Thomas Ronhar here to come across the line last in the session.
He was
and
second.
I believe it's only P2 for Ronhar.
Josh, look at the gap. The gap is 1,000th. I'm sure the gap between those two is just 1,000th of a second, as we can see. It was. No, the exact same time. The exact same time. And Josh, if you remember last season, it happened with, I think it was Isvan Pookie and Max Wiesel at Brazil.
Yeah, I do. I mean, we quite often say, you know, all these drivers are really competitive. Anyone could get pole. This goes to show it. It really, really does. The talent on this grid is ridiculous. And the fact they're able to pull out identical laps, I'm speechless.
A 10.5 separating the grid. It's obviously Tygo Hardy on pole ahead of Thomas Ronhart, Alvaro Carreton in third, Max Wiesel on fourth, Ismail Fassi in fifth, Nando Moreira in P6, Bradley Holdham seventh, Shanaka Clay in eighth, Xander Van Dijk in ninth, and Louis Welch rounded out the top 10 there. It was 80,000 separating the top 8 on the grid. This race is going to be absolutely amazing. Well, I don't know if we go dynamic or not, but if we don't go dynamic, it's going to be an interesting start, Josh.
Yeah.
Do we go dynamic? Do you know? Do you know at all?
I believe we do. We do go dynamic, unfortunately.
No.
But that doesn't mean we're going to be saying goodbye to the rain. Obviously, we're having to restart the lobby. It's just a procedure here at PSGL. But fingers crossed, right?
Yeah.
The rain dance I was doing earlier is going to work.
Maybe
right?
it will.
Maybe it will, maybe it won't. We never know. But I'll tell you something which does work. It's what you're sitting in right now, Nathan Richards. Would you care to share?
The GT Omega chair, you can see obviously the logos. Josh, have you got one as well? Oh yeah, haven't
do.
you?
I've got a newer one.
You've
It's absolutely
upgraded.
beautiful. I've upgraded away from my orange canvas one. So this pure, beautiful leather and metal framework. It's absolutely fantastic. I'll show you guys a secret feature, which I don't quite often like to tell you about, but you can lean back as far as you like. It's fantastic. It really is. To be quite honest with you, I could probably take a nap here, but it's just a shame the drivers are so excited and keeping me up, to be honest.
Well, my chair can go flat. Literally, it can go line
I've got a bed
astern.
behind me. I can't go flat.
I could, but I'm
can.
not prepared to do that on stream. I'm sorry, but no. I'm not going to make myself look even more stupid than I do already. But Josh, I can see
course.
Bob there in the corner, so I think that
Yes.
means Bob's telling us it's time to have some words from both of our sponsors at GT Omega and Sim Racing Centre.
Okay. Let me know.
We're back.
No, we're not. We're not back. No.
Aren't we? Maybe we are.
No, because we need a breather.
See,
we need a breather after that qualifying session.
We're going to cover up the fact that Josh said, "Are we back?" when we actually was on live. So we're going to cover up the broadcasting technical difficulty there.
Absolutely. But I do need a breather. I need a drink. I need to go out, have a brisk walk in a bit of cold air to really try and tackle what just happened in that qualifying session. Because once again, E-Series delivered as always. Noticing all of you lot in the YouTube and the Twitch chat, we do have a very bold comment in the Twitch chat saying Al Sarico said he could have done a 109.
Well, I know exactly what website he's been to.
Well, all I'm saying, mate, if you feel like you're quick enough, come and join us at the PSGL Discord and sign yourself up to a division, get racing in there, and hopefully we might be able to see you join one of these teams at the illustrious grid here at E-Series. But, dare I say, I don't want to think about this race if that qualifying session was anything to go off, because we could be seeing it go 3 wide into turn 1 almost every lap. It's going to be mental.
I wouldn't be surprised. These drivers here are the crazy of the craziest on the F123 game. I think, we see more crazies from the best than we do from some of the worst. So normally don't have the skills to race side by side very well. But these drivers make it very scary at times. And even as a commentator, we get a bit of a code brain moment on many, many occasions. But we've got 18 drivers in there. So just waiting for 2 more to head their way back into lobby. And we will name and shame. And that is, of course, is Declan Barrett and Tima Zelenkovic. So come on, guys, get in quickly so we can get started for the Spanish Grand Prix. 33 laps of racing around the track. That could be dry, could be wet, maybe could be in the middle. We'll see.
Who knows?
Once we get underway. And Josh, I think now we have some time. We'll have a little look at the standings for drivers for people who might not be quite up to date of how the standings are going.
Yes, of course. We do have SRC leading the way, but after that qualifying performance, we could be seeing a change towards the top at the end of this race. But of course, we still have 33 laps to get through, so we're not going to write anything out. But SRC are currently on top with 77 points, and 1 point behind them is F7R on the 76. Once again, having a great run of form. Slightly further below them on 73 is Race Clutch, of course, working with Alpine Esports as well. They're a phenomenal team. It's going to be interesting to sort of see how they're going to take a hands on this championship and try and make it something of their own and try and carry away. Because at the minute, they're leading the professional esport teams. And of course, that means Williams is next behind them on the 68 points. But they've got a cracking lineup here again today. Dare I say, they could potentially be looking to jump up into P1 in the standings. Because anything could happen in sim racing. And I feel like anything will happen with this grid. P5 Ferrari Esports, again, not a great qualifying to them. I mean, you mentioned it before, they might have to go back to the drawing board, but something has got to change with the way they work because they're losing so much time by starting further down the grid. We've seen their racecraft, especially as of recent races. They're absolutely fantastic. They know how to race. Take Nicolas Longuet as an example. He danced his way around Belgium. It was fantastic to watch, and I feel like they're only due a matter of time before they end up getting that qualifying result they need to really try and sample back onto the top of the C Series Championship. And then TF10, of course, another community team on 37 points, slightly further back than the Ferraris. But again, you say that, you look at their team, Alex Santana, Max Wiesel, absolutely phenomenal, R8G, Thomas Ronhar, need I say more? Xander, need I say more? They could be in with a chance of closing up the gap. The Loche Academy as well, getting Bradley Holden through into Q3 and starting 7th place is going to be a huge help to them, trying to jump up the standings as well. Novus Racing, they're going to be looking to try and work a little bit of magic here and there. But of course, at the bottom, you've got Thomas Enge, who, dare I say, don't deserve to be at the bottom, in my opinion. I feel like they've had some brilliant racecraft so far. They've just got a little bit unfortunate here and there, so they're going to be looking to try and pull something out of the bag here as well. And, you know, you think about Catalunya, you think about Spain, you know, we've been teased a little bit with the wet weather, but of course, we've still got that, you know, image in the back of your mind about a safety car. I'll never forget the safety cars which you can have around here, because it's always something which can happen. All it takes is a little bit of contact somewhere, one of the cars into the gravel, lose a front wing, safety car's called out, it'll flip the entire race on its head, and it'll certainly be very interesting if we do see that. But fingers crossed, it's not going to happen right at the start. We want it midway, I reckon, just so we can see a little bit of a, you know, a verdict, a little difference, let's say, in between some of the strategies. But we can expect the drivers to go for a one-stop as per. But you never know. Some of the drivers might feel a little risky. Some of them might feel like stretching out on soft compound tyres for a lot longer than they should in order to just try and get a little bit of a bite down on a medium set. It's all up in the air, in my opinion.
It is, and the strategy around here, it's always a little bit up in the air, like what we saw back in PSGL in the main season last night. Obviously, F2, 3, and 4, and 5 was live. And yet again, strategies were all up in the air. I know for myself in F2, we had at the start of the race, obviously it's a different circuit, but we had everyone on the softs, mediums, and hards here. I expect it to be probably quite the same, unless, of course, we do have the rain making a feature. If that's the case, obviously we do know it's on dynamic, so it might not be the case. But if it is, strategy then is also thrown up into the air, because you've got to judge, right, if it's going wet at the end, what do you do? Do you go soft medium, or do you try and stretch a set of softs? Do you try and stretch a set of mediums, or do you go hard to just, you know, get that longevity? It's such a hard decision to make when you know that rain is coming, or even if you know drivers are trying different strategies, you've got to also put that into factor. So I think the race will be quite interesting, but we've got all the drivers in the lobby now. Obviously, the last person recently just joining in, so we should hopefully get into the race shortly. And of course, thank you to Louis Welch for being our lobby host and taking all responsibility and all blame for any issues that go wrong. Of course, the drivers will also they will always love to blame the lobby host if anything happens, even if it's their own race that gets through, and they will always blame the lobby host or something. So, of course, thank you to Louis for getting all that set up for us, and hopefully get our way underway for a race very, very soon. And Josh, going into this,
yes,
who's your winner? Go on, do it a bit early.
Well,
go on.
I've had a little talk with Bob while he was off camera, right? And he whispered in my ear, and he said that Shenanka Clay is going to win the race by 5 seconds.
Oh,
now that's a very bold prediction from Bob, and I'm not going to go with it.
Oh, okay.
Bob was right before and said SRC were going to get a podium around Spa. But I just have that slight little feeling that we're going to see something magical here today. Whether it's from a Nicolas Longuet or a Bradley Holden, I'm not too sure, but I feel like we're going to see something completely out of nowhere. It's going to catch everyone by surprise. And dare I say, that's why I think Ishmael Fass is going to win this race.
Well,
I don't know why. It's just something.
You went for something a little bit outlandish, but I'm going to go for something even more outlandish. I'm going to go for Mr. P16 at the moment, Joris Krozen for the victory. I heard you say you was going ambitious, and I thought, yeah, it's not going to be as ambitious as mine. But yeah, Joris for me is going to be the one who I think will win this race. Obviously, starting down in P16, we can see in the chat, it says very Bob-tomistic. Oh, so what's that? Good or bad? Bob-tomistic. That's bad, isn't it?
No,
Well, you said that
it's optimistic for Bob.
Yeah, but you're saying that Bob was wrong. So Bob's being Bob-tomistic, but you're being un-Bob-tomistic. You're being very, very. Bob will be having a word with you later on.
I'm being Bob's cynical. But
Bob's
end of the
cynical.
day, you never know what can happen. It is sim racing. Very well, we could see 19 cars DNF and a huge pile up into turn one. You never know. Hopefully it won't happen, but you never know. You really, really never know. And that's one of the beauties of this. So, dare I say, Bob might actually have one of the most realistic views that we've got so far.
And if Bob's right, then you're testing of everyone £5,000 who also agrees with Bob.
Right, we're not starting this. We're not starting this just dumping money on people because
hang on. You did that to me last night. £50,000 I was meant to get.
Alex did it to you. Alex said that if Nathan Richards' prediction was correct, I was going to pay 50k.
Ooh,
Firstly, I don't know where he got that
Josh,
from.
Look what Yorick put. He's going to give us something. He said if they win, he'll leak the SRC Esports shirts.
Okay. Well, birthday boy's looking like he's in good spirits still after last night, of course. Happy birthday, Yorick. Obviously, a good part of the sponsorship here at PSGL. Dare I say, Bob's little rain dance didn't work because it is bone dry out there for the time being.
It didn't work yet, did it, Josh? It might rain towards him. We never know. But I'm going to let you handle the carnage into turn one because I want to make sure I can get everything on the screen at the right time so everything looks perfect. It won't be, but we'll try. So, Josh, you have the luxury of commentating turn one, which I think is going to be chaos, and I think we will have 3 drivers off the road. That's what I'm going to predict. 3. 1 at the back and 2 near the front.
Okay, I'm just going to assume everyone's going to take... Was it the George Russell line he did? Where he just completely ignored turn 2.
And Alonso.
Yes, just completely went off. I expect every single driver to do that, cut turn 2 and just make it out of turn 3.
NASCAR.
Proper NASCAR style. I'll tell you what, we'll just ignore the stand there. We'll get them to drive behind the stand at the back and we'll just turn Catalunya into an oval once again.
Why not?
Any problems with that, guys, other than the FIA? No? Okay, right, we're doing some NASCAR here. Dare I say, it could be interesting. But of course, we do have the custom sponsor boards here still, once again. And it's a lot better than looking at a boring DHL board and a stupid Aramco sign on the floor, isn't it? Getting to see that beautiful GT Omega and PSGL logo plastered all over the place. Keep an eye out if you see any of the SRC ones as well. And don't forget, if you get any good clips from this race, to clip it and go ahead and at us on Twitter. Come and join Discord. Whack them in the Discord as well, because it'd be interesting to see what you guys like to clip and like to sort of get an alternative viewpoint on. And we'll see if we have any different viewpoints from any of the drivers on the grid. Don't forget to give us a cheeky little at over on Twitter at PSGL. It'll be interesting. It'll be a bit of good fun as well. So keep your eyes peeled, and hopefully we'll be able to get underway very, very shortly with the start of this race. I'm excited. And here we go. We've got the 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, and 5 lights around the circuits of Barcelona. And Catalunya, and away we go. We've got Tycho Hardy leading away with Thomas Ronha very close behind, but he's not had the best of starts. And Alvaro Carreton knows that. He's all over the back of him. He's pulled out slightly, just making sure Ronha knows he's there, and Ronha has to go defensive there. As we've got all the drivers now making it too wide, filing through out of turn 1, turn 2. Nathan Richards, your prediction wasn't quite correct. But Max Wiesel is certainly trying to make a move on Ishmael Fassi, and he gets that move done and sorted before they head into Repsol here. At turn 4, we've got a lot of cars here jostling for position. We've got Shenanka Clay also looking to try and squeeze his way past. But it could potentially be, dare I say, a little bit too optimistic, or Bobtomistic as we like to dub it, trying to put it around the outside there. He's had to sit back behind the AlphaTauri car. But so far, we've got the AlphaTauri from the Sauber, from the Williams, leading the front of the pack.
Indeed, and Frank Mraviak, very poor start. Didn't get off the line on time. I think he must have had a technical issue there with maybe his wheel or maybe his game. So he, unfortunately, is 10 seconds back after the first lap. They head down into turn 10. We can see further back. We can see Bradley making a move on Louis. We can see Kamil ahead of Jan Herde. Jan goes very well, drops down to P15. Now under pressure from Declan Barrett and, of course, Timo Zelenkovic. And Timo and 6, and a brilliant start for them into P16 and P17. And already the brake boards are being ripped off the circuit. We've only had 1 lap. And also we've got Alex Santana, Josh, into the pit lane.
Yeah, I mean, it could definitely be a long day for Alex, but even more so, it could be a long day for this Williams duo because Max Wiesel has put himself in between both of them, stopping them from working together as well as they would have liked. But I'll tell you something, Max, throughout that first lap, was on the back of Alvaro Carreton throughout the entirety of that middle sector. He looks like he's hungry. He wants to get some more points. He wants to get himself on the podium, and he wants to put a challenge to the likes of Thomas Ronha and Tycho Hardy for this race win here around Catalunya. And I believe he definitely has the ability to do so. It'll just be whether, well, it'll be a matter of time before he tries to find a different place to overtake Alvaro Carreton for third, before he can really try and unleash the pace in that Red Bull, in that TF10 outfit, trying to find anywhere on this circuit to mount a challenge to the front runners here.
Indeed, as they all fall down into turn 10. Once again now, on lap 2 of 33, and Ismail Fassi looking strong on those medium tyres. He's also going to be one to be trying to make a bit of a different strategy work here in this race, of course, along with Declan Barrett, who also started on a set of medium tyres. We can see Jan Halliday arguing with Sixten Lintar into turn 13 and 14. They go side by side. That's not normally something that works, and Jan still keeps it ahead here of Sixten. Brilliant job there from the TES Mercedes to defend against the raging hat on the soft tyres as they all head down once again into towards turn 1 here, and this time Sixten has got the run on the back of Jan Halliday. Into turn 1 they go side by side, and I think Sixten might have the job done. No, he can't get himself ahead of Jan Halliday just yet as they head their way up through in towards turn 3. Further ahead we can see the likes of Declan Barrett on the medium tyres as well. Josh looking to make a move ahead of one of the Ferraris, and Nicolas Longuet not getting the start he would have wanted there, I don't think.
Yeah, down the main straight, Ferrari swap position. It makes sense. Camille's on that soft compounded tyre. Longuet's looking to stick it out and certainly go a long way around this strategy and try and put it on that hards to start with and end up getting the better tyres towards the end of the Grand Prix. But he's got a little bit of work to do now just to make sure he can keep following his teammate and follow his teammate through the rest of his pack to make sure that when the DRS opens, he's still within reach and he can open it and just carry himself forward, as we've got Lenny Pipenta and Declan Barrett still squabbling for position, still jostling side by side, as we see Sixten in the background there making a beautiful move, forcing the Mercedes off the racing line just so he can squeeze him out before it ends up coming towards the inside here for, dare I say, turn 12. It's absolutely brilliant so far from the Haas car. The MVR driver looking like he's got bags of potential on that soft compounded tyre, but how far is that potential going to take him, as we've now got the DRS open and we're going to be seeing everything change here. We've got a swap for the lead. Dare I say, Tyker Hardy doesn't want to fight that one too hard. It's not at the moment his fight. He doesn't have to worry about it. He's just got to stay within the DRS range and just keep Ron Hart honest with his pace, not letting him get away too quickly.
Of course, very nice from Tyker Hardy and Thomas Ron Hart just to work together a little bit, not to allow Alvaro Carreton to try and make a lunge in towards turn 1. Obviously, those two doing a great job for their teams over at RHG and S7R. Remember, S7R sitting second in the standings. If they was to finish at 2nd and 6th as they are now, they would take the championship lead ahead of SRC, and also RHG will be looking to try and put more of a damage on Ferrari's results, because Ferrari's sitting 11th and 12th at the moment, not looking the best in the best position at all. Still, they could be looking to make some very decent points. Then again, it's what they can do in terms of strategy. Campbell and Nicholas on completely different strategies. They're going to have to work with that together and make it work, as we can see they're all falling through in towards turns 11 and 12. We can see Alvaro as well on the back of Tyker Hardy doing a decent job so far in this race, only lap 4 of 33, however, but still looking to be on an upwards spectrum. As we can see further back, Nando Moreira looking to gain in as well on the back of Ismail Fassi. S7R looking strong, SRC also looking strong. We can see Bradley Holdham though looking for a move on Shanaka Clay, but then again it's lap 4 of 33. No one's really looking to make moves. They're all just looking to stick behind each other and use that DRS advantage.
Yeah, you don't need to fight tooth and nail on lap 5 of a race. Of course, we've all heard the saying, take it easy into Sandovant. You've also heard you can't win the race on lap 1. It's going to be a slow, thought-out process for these drivers, just making sure they all follow each other. The only driver I couldn't necessarily see trying to make a move nice and early on would be the likes of Nando Moreira, Shananka Clay, trying to get past Ismail Fassi, but Fassi is doing just enough at the minute to keep that distance to Max Wiesel close enough to where Nando Moreira doesn't feel like he's got an overtaking opportunity, because of course, out the entire top 11, Ismail Fassi is the only one on that medium compounder tyre.
Indeed, as they all head back down towards turn 10. Alex Santana obviously pitting earlier on, and he's 40 seconds back. So I think he's been into the pits twice now in this race so far. So Alex Santana not looking too happy at all with what's going on in this opening race, and I think he's really not going to find any way of catching up to the pack unless there is some sort of safety car or a massive collision somewhere along one of the corners, causing multiple people to make pit stops. We can see Ismail Fassi gaining into the back of Max Wiesel. Can he look to make a lunge into turn 1? No, he can't. He's gaining though on the back of Max, but didn't fight for a move. We can see Nando Moreira for a little bit of time, losing some time on the back of Ismail as they head up the hill in towards turns 3 and turns 4. And now Max looking to make a move here on Alvaro, so they're all closing in towards turn 4, and at one point someone's going to have to make a move here.
Yeah, you can't just bump draft the car in front along. We made a joke about NASCAR earlier, but bump drafting isn't the quickest way to go about in this game. You want to get an overtake, you want to get that position, you want that little bit of clean air so you can really start trying to push the tyres, because the longer you sit behind these cars, the hotter your engine's going to get, and you'll overall lose a little bit of performance. So if we see any cars ducking out the slipstream, heading down this straight or down the main straight as well, you know the reason why. As we see Max Wiesel there with a bold move to the inside, getting it just about getting that position to keep ahead of Ismail Fassi, but Fassi is putting him under an awful lot of pressure here, especially for a driver you would consider on the slower compounded tyre at this point of a race. He seems to have an abundance more grip than Max Wiesel. Even so, coming out of turn 13, you can see just the way that car was working. It just held on to the inside a lot better than what the Red Bull did, and you see Alvaro Carreton moving to that right-hand side, just making sure Ismail Fassi gets a little bit of toe to help him back past Max Wiesel, of course, Grandpa, who's now currently finding himself in P5 behind both of the Williams cars at this moment in time.
Of course, we can also see Nicholas Longe looking to make a move here on the back of Xander Van Darken towards turn 4. Backs out at the last possible second, though. So I think now these softs are starting to lose their advantage here in this race, bringing the mediums and the hards back towards more of an optimal window here. So they all head down towards turn 5 in the first sector. And further ahead, we can see Ismail Fassi look actually on the back of his teammates. So we might see the two Williams swap round in the next couple of laps as they head up towards turn number 9. And obviously, you can see Tucker Hardy looking to also start to lose a bit more time to Thomas Ronheimer, so he's going to obviously have to try and hold on to that DRS, which I don't think is much of an issue. But he's of course losing a little bit of time there to Ronheimer. We can see as well Declan Barrett making a move on on the back of Camel's stature. Camel goes wide, allows Declan to get through. Peace off for Declan Barrett. He's also on a bit of an upward scale at the moment. So yeah, the soft tyres, Josh, looking to start to lose a bit of pace here in this race.
Yeah, it's certainly something, isn't it? We're only 7 laps into this race, and you can already see those softs starting just to struggle a little bit, as I believe we will be seeing the Williams working together here once again down the main straight, but they don't swap positions. Alvaro just helps Ishmael get a little bit of a slipstream going off the racing line just to try and carry him forward a little bit to make sure Max Wiesel's not able to put any more pressure on the Williams car behind. But then you've got a little further back than that, you've got Shenango Clay all over the back of Nando Moreira, just trying to force a mistake. But once again, these drivers have all been in this position before. All of them have raced at the top level of Formula One. All of them know exactly what to do in this game. They understand the pressure. They understand the mental games that the other drivers are going to start trying to put onto them, and they know how to deal with it. And it's brilliant stuff so far from Nando Moreira, just making sure he's able to keep Shenango Clay at bay heading for that first sector. And now he's going to be looking forward to maybe try and put Max Wiesel under a little bit of pressure, because we've still got this DRS train fully connected all the way from Thomas Ronhar at P1 to Joris Krozen down in P18.
Indeed, as we can see some moves being made. Obviously, Jan Hardijk being overtaken there by Timo Zelenkovic there for P16 and P17. Not much going on down there, but of course, nice to see the different battles going on throughout the grid. We can see Bradley Holdham as well, looking to force a move past Shanaka Clay here, in towards turn 1. He's gaining in here. He's the Veloce Academy driver. Is it enough to try and get an overtake done here on the back of the SRC car? No, it's not. So he sits back for now, but he's definitely gaining in onto the back of Shanaka and could be looking for a move in the next couple of laps here in this race. We can see Nicholas Longe looking to gain into the back of Louis Welch here. Obviously, Louis starting to also lose track a little bit of that pack for P8 and above. He's got a 5/10 gap to Bradley, and Nico got a 2/10 gap to Louis as well. So he'll be looking to try and make a way past on these hard tyres, which seem to have started to become more into Nico's favour here in this race as it continues on. But Ismail Fassi on the medium still looking decently strong. I think his strategy here could be something that we didn't expect to work, but could be the best strategy of all here so far.
Yeah, potentially. He's still got the pace of the medium compound tyres in comparison to the softs as well, and they still seem to be lasting an awful long time. I mean, we compare that to his teammate in front of him, Alvaro Carreton. You know, those soft compound tyres, we've already started seeing them diminish in pace. Those tyres are going to be working against Carreton, while the tyres for, you know, Ismail Fassi, Nicholas Longe, Declan Barrett, Lenny Papinta is all going to be working in favour towards the driver from now until that first pit stop window for the soft compound runners. So it's really up to them how much they want to battle with the cars around them, or whether they're more than happy just to sit and nurture the tyres in this soft train just for a little bit longer until some of these soft compound runners decide to pit, and then they decide to burn the rubber on the tyres, decide to really start pushing, putting the car under a little bit more lateral load through these corners, trying to make that time difference up to try and get the overcut to work a little better than a potential undercut around here, because both are very much viable around Catalunya.
Indeed, as we can see further back, Louis Welch looking to lose a bit more time now on the back of Nicholas Longay. He's been put under pressure by both Xander Van Dokken and Declan Barrett as they head in towards turn 5. Declan looking very strong now on those medium tyres, so I think it's going to be, not much of a matter of time before he makes a pass past one of those cars ahead. We can see Xander Van Dokken pretty much pushing Louis Welch through these corners, and Louis is losing lots of time now. He's got a 7/10 gap to Nicholas Longay. Nicholas Longay also looking to gain into the back of Bradley Holdham as well, so he's looking to be quite strong, and Louis is going to be under pressure as soon as we can see Declan Barrett, though, making a move here past Xander Van Dokken to the inside at turn number 10 and gets the move done here. Brilliant move there from the Veloce Academy driver, and looking to score yet again some decent points here in this championship. As we can see further ahead, though, the two Williamses, I think, Josh, looking to maybe score the most points here tonight, because they're looking really, really strong, and they're not really, looking to make moves. They're not really looking to defend at all. They're just comfortably sitting along in 3rd and 4th. And at the moment, we can see, can Ishmael make a move here on his teammate? Will they move out the way? No, they don't. I think still Alvaro is comfortable ahead of his teammate, so there's no point letting them make moves or letting them pass each other.
Exactly. Something we've got to take into consideration here as well is the drop-off point of the tyres. Yes, some tyres will drop off quicker than others depending on how soft they are. We've already seen that little soft window for the soft compound tyre just drop off just a little bit. We're now expecting to see the mediums take the next drop-off hit, and it's going to be key to kind of keep an eye out for that before all the tyres kind of equal out on pace, but they don't equal out on degradation. So the soft compounds are still deg quicker than the mediums quicker than the hards, but the pace won't be as much of a difference compared to a fresh set of rubber. So for Ishmael Fassi now, it could very much be a waiting game. He doesn't want to overtake Alvaro Carreton because he doesn't want those tyres to go through that drop-off window and end up inadvertently holding his teammate up, who seems to have been able to get through the little drop period in the performance of the tyre and just making sure he can keep it there in touch with P3. As we're going to see now, Ishmael Fassi taking these corners, and you can notice just a little slight slide coming through from the soft compound runners still, but the mediums still look like they're in a great window and still don't look like they're battling with too much deg at the minute.
Of course, as we can see, obviously, Ishmael Fassi looking to gain it yet again in towards turn 1. We can see, of course, at the top 2, Thomas Ronhar leading Tycho Hardy as they head in towards that first sector once again, and obviously RHG are in need of good points here tonight. They're sitting 7th in the championship, 36 points only to their name, meaning they are 41 points back from SRC at the top, so they are keen to get this victory. Xander Van Dokken, though, not doing too well at the moment, has dropped down a couple of positions since the qualifying segment, down now to P12 in this race, but obviously 35 points you will get for being the race winner, which Thomas Ronhar is looking easily at this point to try and get and achieve here tonight. We can see, of course, obviously Alvaro Carreton looking to gain in on Tycho Hardy. Tycho as well will be looking to get a podium. Finished P4 last week out in Spa, looking to finish on the podium once again here in Spain. So he's looking, he's doing a really good job. And Nando Moreira as well in the top 6 for S7R. So yeah, they could also be looking to try and set the championship lead by quite a margin. Obviously with SRC not doing as well as they have been, sitting P7 and P10. Obviously Louis looking to lose a little bit more time than Shanaka is, but obviously the strategy, pit stops all comes into play. That's where we could see SRC spring back, as we can see now, Josh. A few people making pit stops here. Ishmael Fassi very early. Oh, and Alvaro's had a disconnection.
Oh dear, that's not going to be looking good for the Williams outfit, is it? Oh dear. Well, this could potentially be where it's been all unravelled, as we see another swap for the lead. Tycho Hardy taking back the lead. But as soon as you mention teams potentially getting lead of a championship, you've just had to curse Williams, haven't you?
Well,
you just had to. You couldn't resist yourself, could you, Nathan?
I'm good at something.
Well, this is going to be painful now for Alvaro Carreton. Hopefully he's able to get back into the game as soon as possible in order to keep competing and get back into this and try and recover a little bit of performance. But you can see his ghost car falling down the order, unfortunate. But Ishmael Fassi diving in for a set of hard tyres, but he's got to keep in mind of, the cars around him, which will also be diving into the pits. Chucking it onto the medium set of tyres. Now, it's a bold call. They can clearly last the other half of this race. Might not be in the best window, may not be in the best shape at the end of a race, but it's going to be critical for them now to make sure to get those medium tyres fired up, get them into the perfect operating window so they can start trying to make moves on the cars around them who do have to go to that hard compound tyre. As we see, Carreton reconnects, but we're going to see a couple of these drivers still hopping it into the pits. We've got Tycho Hardy, Max Wiesel, Shananki Clay, Bradley Holdham all diving it in, while Nicholas Longay and Thomas Ronhar, Declan Barrett too, also just all hang it out there at the minute.
We'll see what tyres Tycho Hardy chooses to go on to. I believe it'll be a set of medium tyres, which it is a set of medium tyres, of course, in most people on the mediums, apart from Ishmael Fassi and Xander Van Dyken, who opted for a set of hards. So we'll see what that can do for them in this race as the race gets on. We can see Jan Halliday, though, now in P9, right at the back of the field of those who haven't pitted. Big shame for Jan in this race. I think TES were looking to get some decent points until Frenek, of course, had that mistake on the restart, on the start of the race, which I don't know really what happened there between that and obviously Jan Halliday having a bit of an incident, dropping back a few positions, not what he would have wanted, as we can see. Though Tycho Hardy come out just ahead of Ishmael Fassi. That could be key. Nando Moreira sitting net P3. This could be brilliant here for the S7R team, even better than it was before, as we can see also. Nando looking for a bit of a move there on Ishmael Fassi, who's on the hards. He will be looking to struggle now, but we'll come back through it as the races get along, as the race gets along.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, there's a whole bunch of potential for these drivers now, especially, you know, the F7R drivers who now are both on probably the quickest compound on the circuit. I mean, well, yeah, definitely the quickest compound on circuit, the freshest medium tyres. We see Thomas Ronhard diving into the bits, presumably for another set of medium tyres, but it'll all be about how much he's lost out to the rest of the field by going that extra lap longer, and how much Tycho Hardy, Ishmael Fassi, and Nando Moreira have all been able to push their mediums to try and get back past the likes of Thomas Ronhart and Nicholas Longe, who's going to be going longer, and Declan Barrett as well, of course.
Owen Ronhar's made that work brilliantly. Look where he's come out. He's come out ahead of them all. Oh, that's going to be close into turn one. And Ronhar, luckily, that turn one was a little bit closer than it could have been, because Ishmael Fassi was right on the tail of the Alfa Romeo as they head up. The Sabre as they head up towards turn number 4, and Ishmael Fassi looking to set the lead. They go 3 wide in towards turn 4. And Ishmael Fassi ahead. Tycho Hardy also ahead of Thomas Ronhar. Poor restart here from Ronhar on this second stint. There's all a bit of contact as well in towards turn 5. Max Wiesel hitting the back of Ronhar there.
Yeah, now this is exactly what F7R need. They've got both drivers past Ronhar. Now they're going to be looking to try and crank up a little bit more pressure on Ishmael Fassi, because they know that when it comes to the drop-off window for those mediums, it'll of course come before the hard compound tyre. So now they've either got to do some shaking and baking just to try and get past Ishmael Fassi, or they're going to have to sit back and wait a little bit longer. As I believe that was Shananki Clay going for a very late move to the inside with a slight bit of contact there on Max Wiesel. Wasn't quite able to make the move work, and now you're looking further back down the grid, and Camille Sutra trying to get past Louis Welsh. She's got the inside line here. Surely Louis is going to have to back out. He doesn't. Again, very close. I'm not a fan of that turn 12, and I'm not a fan when drivers just put their foot down. But now you've got to keep an eye on Alvaro Caraton and Sixten Lindhart, of course, suffering a disconnect. Where are they going to be able to rejoin? Presumably off the back of this DRS train, and could potentially be joining Franek Morawiec slightly further down the grid, trying to make their own train. But we still have Nicholas Longe and Declan Barrett leading this race. Of course, still haven't pit yet. Same as Lenny Papinta, Timo Zelenkovic, Joris Krussen, and Jan Halliday. So, how long are they going to be able to stick it out? And will that soft compounded tyre be worth it at the end of this stint? Because at this point, I'm starting to think maybe not.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on how much time they lose on this next stint, so they're going to have to be careful of what they do, but I'm sure they will have some idea of what will work and some idea of what will not, as we can see. Ronhar looking to gain in on the back of Nando Moreira now, through towards turn on, a little bit more pace being carried through the corners here by Thomas. Can he get a move done towards turn 10? No, we can't. A little bit more straight line speed there in the F7R AlphaTauri gives him a bit more of a buffer in towards that next braking zone. Max Wiesel also looking to gain into the back of Thomas Ronhar through as they head in towards turn number 12, and also Bradley Holden pushing through Shanaka Clay. Bradley's looking very strong here, a lot stronger than Shanaka Clay is, as we can also see near the top. Timo Zelenkovic making a move ahead of Lenny Papinta for P4, but race clutch here, Josh, sticking it out very, very long here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you something, we've got a little change for the lead going on at the minute. We've got the one F7R driver trying to make it around the outside. We've got the other one trying to make it a little attempt at the outside of turn 1, but it wasn't quite on. He had to back out a little bit, and that's given Thomas Ronhar a beautiful opportunity to try and put it around the outside around Renault, but he just can't make the move before the start of the Repsol. They end up braking so late into that corner. It's absolutely ridiculous. But Thomas Ronhar is able to dance his little cyber car around the outside there at turn 4. And of course, it'll turn to the inside for turn 5. And Nando Moreira loses out of position there because he tried a little bit too eagerly to try and put it around the outside of Ishmael Fassi heading into turn 1. It's an ultimate price to pay, isn't it, when you try and go for an overtake, because you can very quickly start getting swallowed up by the rest of the pack if you're slightly offline.
Indeed, we could also see Max Wiesel looking to make a move ahead here of Nando in towards turn 10. Nando now, I think, is in a bit of a compromising situation because all those behind him now, all the way down to Louis Welch, have got, you know, newer tyres, so they're going to obviously be a lot quicker here than Nando. So this is not the best situation at all for the adversary. We can see further ahead, Jan Hade looking to make a move ahead of Joris, but obviously those guys are sticking it out very late in this race. Surely now they're going to be going on towards soft tyres, and even it's stupidly late here in this race before making a pit stop. But we can see as well Thomas Ronhart trying to get ahead of Ishmael Fassi. What does Isma do here now? Because obviously he's on the hards. No one else all the way down to Xander is either. So he's in a bit of a weird situation, isn't he?
Yeah, if I was Ishmael at this point, you would just hope to tuck into the DRS to Tycho Hardy and then try and play your cards later on in the race. You don't necessarily want to try and let other cars pass, but at the same time, you don't want to take the life out of your hard tyres and go defensive because you'll just be stuck in a more equal window with the medium compound runners as Thomas Ronhart sends a little dummy to the inside there, but it wasn't quite on. Forced Ishmael Fassi to go a little bit deeper in the corner, and you could just see the amount of pace Ronhart's got on those medium compounded tyres compared to Ishmael. But Ishmael's doing a fantastic job just holding on to the back there.
Josh?
And yeah, dare I say, EA seems to have had a moment. So, interesting.
Of course, as we can see, Ronhart trying to make a move ahead here of Ishmael Fassi around the outside at turn number 10. He's got this at run, gets pushed out a little bit wide onto the bit of a scruffy part of the circuit, but has that inside at turn number 12. They go side by side. Can Ronhart get the move done? He's going to get it just a little bit ahead, and he does. Brilliant move there from Thomas Ronhart to get himself ahead of Ishmael Fassi further back. We can see, of course, and Louis Welch looking to get close to the back of Bradley Holden to make a move for P13 in this race. As you can see, he has an advantage on the corner, but couldn't get it done down the straight as they head back in towards turn number 1. Declan Barrett looking to get himself ahead of Nicholas Longo here, and also Alex Santana. Unfortunately, Josh being lapped here in this race. Big shame for him indeed, and could have been a better result for him here, but of course that's not going to be the case here tonight. As we can see, Ronhart looking to get ahead of Tycho Hardy. Now, does he try and just pull that gap ahead? Do you think he can pull a second on Tycho Hardy here, Josh?
I mean, potentially, it's going to be a very, very tough one in order to do, though. I mean, we saw in that first, and they were very equally matched for pace, but I feel like if any driver on this grid is able to do it, it could potentially be Tycho Hardy, just making sure he's able to give it that 1 second, just follow it through, nurture a little bit of battery, pace management. We're going to expect to see it throughout the entirety of his second stint. But I will have to request something off you, Nathan. That's an invite to the lobby, my friend.
I'll get you one sorted, Josh, so not to worry.
Thank you.
Not ideal, but here we are. We can't do much about it.
Not the best. We love EA servers. We love Steam servers as well. Brilliant.
I'll have to invite you through the game. I can't invite you for some reason through the lobby. Sorry about this, guys.
Unfortunate.
No,
sorry, guys.
I can't get you in, Josh.
Oh dear. Well, that's not great, is it? Well, looks like I might have to be doing some backseat commentary.
Unless you can try and join through another driver. I don't think there'll be many people also that can get you in if you just look at joining their game, because it is on friends only.
Oh dear.
As we can see though, Max Wiesel making a move ahead of Nando Moreira up for P7. We can see Janaka Clay looking to stick it up the inside here of the AlphaTauri. Bit of a slide there from Nando. That was definitely a scary moment. That brings now Bradley Holden to look and try and make a move in towards turn 4, but covers it up nicely. He does. And Bradley Holden to make it ahead of Nando.
Oh dear. It's really not enjoying me trying to get back into this lobby. I'll tell you that much.
There we are. You got it. I was being stupid.
Oh, beautiful. There we go. Lovely.
As we can see, though, Bradley looking to make it back ahead, and sorry, they got a bit distracted, and Bradley unfortunately couldn't make the move done, but he was very close to doing so in towards that braking zone. As we can see further ahead, Ishmael Fassi now looking to gain in on the back of Tycho Hardy. His tyres are getting more and more worse, but then again, there's 13 laps left to go. He will be looking to get a little bit closer as this race progresses. You can see Declan and team are now into the pit lane. They'll be probably onto a set of soft tyres to take those to the end, because they will be dropping all the way pretty much to around, I think, P16 here in this race. So they're going to have a lot of work to do, obviously, on those soft tyres, and it is soft for both of them, of course, as they head down towards turn 1. We can see as well moves being made. Bradley this time ahead of Nando to get himself into B6. Moreira looking to drop down a little bit more than he would have liked to so far in this Grand Prix. We can see as well Louis Welch looking to gain in and get himself back ahead of Nando, but then again he's not really gaining in as much as he would have liked to. As we can see, Josh, welcome back. Nice to see you back with us.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what I was saying with Nando, isn't it? You just lose a little bit of that rhythm trying to go for an overtake. It could knock your confidence. It could just put you out of your rhythm. And then you've got to start thinking about the car behind. And once you look back, that's when you start getting vulnerable to the cars behind. You stop thinking about making moves forward, and you start thinking about what could happen to you. And it's all psychological at that point. And you're rather just a passenger for the rest of this Grand Prix.
Of course, and well, it's been pretty much a bit of a passenger ride the whole way, hasn't it? Apart from Ron Hart at the front, everyone else is just sitting there comfortably following each other in behind. It's not really been the most eventful Grand Prix here at Spain. But then again, obviously, we've still got 10 laps to go, so it can get more interesting as the laps crumble down. And once we see more drivers starting to make moves on those newer sets of tyres, one driver to keep an eye on is, of course, Nicholas Longe. Obviously, on those one-lap-old mediums, a lot newer than those ahead. He could also be looking to try and make a late charge. We'll see what he can do to the gap between him and Alvaro Carreton. Obviously, Alvaro, big shame for him, was looking to be in the top 3, wasn't he, Josh? But unfortunately, had a bit of an incident with his internet, and unfortunately, he got locked out of the session.
Yeah, it's very, very unfortunate for Williams driver, but of course, you know, it's what these drivers are made out of, isn't it? They can bounce back from anything, and Alvaro Carreton is certainly showing that by getting the move sorted on Sixten Lindhart, and of course, on fresher medium tyres when the car's in front, he can still make a charge up to the back of his field and really try and apply a little bit of pressure to the likes of Zander in the next coming laps, and it'll be very interesting to sort of see where he's able to find himself throughout the rest of this race, and see what sort of battles he's going to try to, you know, skip past and try cheeky overtakes, and then other ones he's going to take, you know, a little bit more boldly and cautiously against certain drivers. It'll be certainly interesting, but certainly one thing, his race isn't over. He can certainly get a good handful of points heading towards the end of this race. Mind you, I'll say that it's very, very similar to, you know, a potential Nicholas Longe, currently in P13, a little bit far off the back, but again, he's another one of those drivers who can find himself running an alternative strategy and making it work.
Of course, indeed, because he Tiger Hardy, though, looking to gain in on the back of Thomas Ronhard, he did, you know, get that gap to over 7 tenths once they exited the final corner. So actually, if Ronhard can play his card right, he could also be looking to try and stretch that gap to over a second, which would then probably check him out for the win here in this race. So, you know, that could be also something that he'll be looking on to do. And also, Max Wiesel here, Josh, has lost it 1 second. That is critical. That is not what the TF10 driver wants whatsoever here in this race. He needs to know to push to get himself back within a second of Ishmael Fassi. Otherwise, he could be easily looking to drop down positions.
Yeah, you know, it'll be one of those things where he's going to have to decide whether just burning a little bit more of that ERS to keep within that 1 second window is going to necessarily be worth it, and he does decide to do so, so they switch past that detection point. He will have a DRS, but he obviously won't gain as much because Ishmael Fassi also has the DRS. As part of this DRS train, it's going to be very, very tough for Max Wiesel to find this little bit of extra time without having to use his battery. And taking a look across the rest of the grid, he could potentially be one of those who's using the battery just as much as some of the other drivers on this grid. I mean, it sounds very obvious. All the drivers are having to use the battery, but he's using just a little bit more just to try and catch back up to Ishmael Fassi, which won't do him any justice come the end of this stint at the end of the race.
Indeed, as yet again we saw Bradley Holden gaining in on the back of Shonika Clay, but unfortunately couldn't find a move on the exits of the final corner. Alvaro Carreton still arguing Sixten Lindhart for P11 and P12. Nicholas Longe now in this battle, so he'll be looking to make a send. He gets a send done. He goes a little bit deep though, and he's gone off the circuit. He's gone off the circuit even more, and that's lost position yet again to Sixten. Also Declan Barrett looking to get in behind, make a move into turn 4. He's got a decent run on the Haas. I don't think he can get a run on the thrower though, so it'll be Sixten Lindhart now down to P14 in this race. Declan and Nico kind of working together here to try and push themselves through the grid.
Yeah, certainly, just trying to get anything sorted possible. I mean, I mentioned about going for those bold overtakes, making it brash, and trying to catch back up to Carreton to keep it within this field. So when Carreton deploys that little bit of extra ERS, as we mentioned before, with the likes of Max Wiesel, he'll be able to just hatch onto the back of Carreton and follow himself along, so they can all three of them can necessarily start trying to make moves on the likes of Zander and on Camille slightly further up the field.
Indeed, as we can see, Declan Barrett looking to gain in here on the back of Nicholas Longe, who's also looking to get ahead of Alvaro Carreton here as they head in towards the final corner now. Alvaro's going to lose even more positions in this race. He's not going to be too happy with this, as we can see Nico easily, I think, get past the back of the Williams, along with Declan Barrett following him behind. He'll also get a nice front at the Williams car. There we are, P11 and P12 it is for Declan Barrett and Nicholas Longe as they head into turn 1. And now these two, the only issue they have is the DRS for those ahead could really hamper them making some moves.
Yeah, but you're going to have to put a little bit of faith in these guys. They've got the fresher tyres. They've gone for that longer first stint for a reason. We know how quick all these drivers are. They're all so similar in pace, so you've got to think that little bit of tyre life will really help them out throughout this middle sector, and especially that final sector as well, to close that gap up. And as we can already see, it's back within under a second. Next on the list of Nicholas Longe and Declan Barrett, it'll be Zander Van Dijken in the Sauber car in front of them. How long will Zander be able to last? Only a matter of time will tell, I suppose.
Yep, indeed, as we could see, obviously Declan, he could also be looking to... The question is, Josh, he's in P12 now on those 4-lap old softs. Will he be able to get into the top... will he be able to get himself into that top 8, top 7 in time? Because his tyres, give it 2 or 3 laps, will not really be much stronger than any of the others now. So he's in a bit of a sticky situation, is he, on those soft tyres? I don't think he would have... I don't think he's happy with the moves he's made, because I think he would have been... we would have liked to make us a few more moves in this race.
Yeah, he could certainly get within the top 8, but then again, it's the double-edged sword of, yeah, he'll have the pace at this moment in time, but as you mentioned, that pace will eventually depreciate, and you're going to be in a little bit of an issue there as we see a bit of contact between Xander and Nicholas Longe, as Xander rejoins the track in a very aggressive manner and ends up getting put back out of the circuit there, and he ends up falling all the way down to P18. I'm sure the stewards will have a little look at that one, see if anything can be done there, because to me, that was a bit of a cheeky rejoin.
It was. I'm sure the stewards will be looking at both moves made by both drivers. Obviously, Nicholas making that bit of an ambitious send, and obviously Xander joining back onto the circuit probably when it wasn't the best time to do so. So we could see penalties for both of them for that incident. But then again, we're not sure, so it's not our place to decide on that at all. But we can see Declan Barrett now looking to gain into the back of Nicholas Longate to make a move. Can he try and strike this lap? No, he can't. But he will be looking to gain in more and more. And it seems like the strategy here for these two is to try and knock the drivers off the circuit rather than make the moves in the corners, which is working, but it won't work when you get penalties afterwards. We can see, though, further back ahead, Bradley Holdham, he gains in the corners, but just can't get it done on the straights here. So I think it shows that Bradley might have a bit more of a high wing setup rather than some other drivers on the circuit, because you can see he's gaining into the back of Shanika Clay, but can never really find the overtake.
Yeah, but you got to think, when these tyres do get to their drop-off point towards that cliff, that'll be when Bradley is going to get the most advantageous, setting going through these corners, because he's got that little bit more downforce, relying less on the tyres and their necessary, capable load potential. It's more focused on the downforce of the car at that point, because the tyres are all graining, they're starting to fade away. So that's where Bradley's really going to excel during this middle sector, and it'll give him that perfect opportunity to try and send a cheeky move, maybe down the inside here at turn 5, maybe up, heading up through TV3, maybe going into turn 10, just making sure he's got that little bit of extra grip on turning to get a move done. That'll be where he's looking to try and make an overtake. It won't be using the DRS down the straight. It won't be going into a braking zone. It'll be trying to hang it around the outside of the corner. And it'll be something that certainly is going to be trying to catch Shanika Clay off guard.
Well, something that's been told to us here in the chat is that Shanika might have issues with his fuel. So that is probably why he could be dropping off pace here. Obviously, if that is what has been said is correct, this might not be good at all for Shanika Clay. Means he has to lift and coast, meaning he will lose time to those ahead. And you can see evidently he's lost a lot of time to Max Wiesel now. Can we see Bradley Holdham try and close in and make an overtake? Because if they're just going to be hampered, surely Bradley's got to think about the move. We can see Louis Welch being overtaken there by Nicholas Longate to promote Louis to 9th and promote Nicholas into P8. We can see as well it's going to be Timo Zelenkovic ahead of Leonid Pinsat, popped himself into P12, and obviously he started down in last. So brilliant job here from Zelenkovic to get himself into some decent points positions. We can see Declan Barrett now looking to make a move. He can't find a move done. We can see Nicholas Longate ahead of Nando Moreira in towards turn 4. Brilliant from him. Now Nicholas is going to be just charged through this field here, Josh.
Yeah, on half the age of tyres, of course, lap 8 old mediums for Nicholas Longate. He looks forward. You've got lap 14 for Holdham, lap 14 for Clay, lap 14 for Grandpa, lap 15 for Fassi, lap 14 for Hardy, and of course lap 13 for Ron Hart. So he's in a brilliant opportunity here to really try and make some overtakes work. We mentioned before the experience of some of these drivers running alternative strategies, and Nicholas Longate is surely showing us one of the ways you can definitely run a hard to medium race here around the circuit of Catalunya in Barcelona. He's had a brilliant race so far. He's made moves where he's needed to make them. But also, you've got to give credit where credit's due. Camille is not letting Declan Barrett past easily in the slightest, doing a great job of defensive driving, making sure Barrett just can't follow Longate through as easy as he would have liked. And of course, now that has made a free car window between Barrett and Longate themselves before Declan Barrett tried a very bold move to the inside there at turn 1. Camille shut the door on him very aggressively, and Timo Zelenkovic is going to say thank you very much and try and make a move up the inside here at turn 3 before they end up approaching into Repsol. But I believe the move is sealed and delivered before the break-in zone there. Brilliant stuff from Zelenkovic, very opportunistic.
It is indeed, and Declan trying to do what Ferrari did, and this time didn't quite go to his plan, so he's going to try and re-evaluate that and go for it once again on the next lap, as we can see further ahead. Nicholas Longate now looking to close in onto the back of Bradley Holdham. Obviously, Bradley also on the rear of Shanaka Clay. So we'll see if any moves can be made there as Nicholas heads down towards turn. Has a 2/10 gap to the rear of the McLaren. You can see he gains in, but obviously yet again not enough to try and make any sort of overtake here in this race as they head up the hill into turn 12, in towards turns 13 and turns 14. Bradley Holdham is now also gaining in on the back of Shanaka Clay. Now, is it time here, Josh, for Bradley to try and make a move ahead of Shanaka just because he knows Nicholas is closing in right behind?
So, in my opinion, what he's got is two decisions. He either ends up getting forced into a move on Shanaka Clay, where Nicholas Longuet is also going to be able to try and follow him through, or he lets Nicholas Longuet pass and tries to follow Longuet through. But then again, both of them are very risky. Both of them could work to your disadvantage. Certainly going to be interesting to see what Bradley Holdham's going to take here, but you've got to think a driver of his quality, a driver of his experience will certainly know when and where to make the move as Nicholas Longuet tries to make a move up the inside with a little squeeze. And I believe that's Bradley Holdham having an absolute tank slapper there. Thankfully for his race, he was able to save it there. But yet again, Nicholas Longuet with another little tap trying to get a move done. He gets himself into P6, but it wasn't the cleanest. A little rub in his racing, it's natural, of course. But once again, you're going to have to start asking questions when they are a little friendlier than that. And he's up into P6 now, but I'm sure the stewards once again will take another look at that move.
I think there definitely will be. Bradley will definitely not be too happy with that overtake made by Nicholas Longuet. Of course, even if it's his fault or not, he will still be annoyed that he's dropped himself down to P7 in this race. But we can see further ahead now, Ismail Fassi looking to get a little bit more comfortable here, looking to pull onto the back of Tycho Hardy as they exit the final corner, back down towards turn 1. Of course, we begin lap 31 of 33, and it's obviously Thomas Ronhard leading the race ahead of Tycho, ahead of Ismail Fassi. And I think it might be a little bit too late now for Nicholas to try and make a move for the lead, but I think Tycho could definitely be one to try and fight for it. But also, Ismail Fassi, he's gaining in quickly on the back of the S7R. Could he be looking to try and take victory here in this race? And yet again, a brilliant fashion bin is he took a bit of a different strategy to the others, and once again, working well.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It just really goes to show the caliber of these drivers. Not only are they quick over one lap in the qualified, as we saw, their racecraft is just unbelievable. They can almost make any strategy work. I feel like if you put one of these drivers on a two-stop strategy, they'd still be up there fighting with someone somewhere on the grid. It's just fantastic to watch these drivers at work, honestly. I mean, I don't feel like another explanation for it is possible, because we're going to be seeing potentially a three-way fight for this race lead, depending on whether, Max Wiesel, Shanaka Clay, and Nicholas Longuet are able to make moves and catch up to this front three in the next couple of laps as well. We could potentially be in for a five-way fight for the lead.
We could be indeed. We can see Nicholas Longuet looking to gain in on the back of Shanaka Clay as they head through in towards the final two corners, down towards turn 1 is where we'll see Nicholas Longuet strike on the back of the Aston Martin. But also we can see Ismail Fassi looking to get ahead of Tycho Hardy here into turn 1. He's going to be pushing that battery to get a move done. Tycho's forced to try and make a move on Thomas Ronhard here. Thomas defends the inside. Shanaka stays in, sorry, not going to be Ismail Fassi stays in third. Tycho in second, but also Tycho's gone deep. He's lost time heading out of turns 2 and turns 3. But Ismail Fassi's going to struggle to get past it because he can't find a move.
Yeah, and it could potentially be down to Tycho and that little bit of battery management he's been doing behind Thomas Ronhard. Had a little scapegoat there, of course. He tried for that little move. It didn't quite work out. Ismail Fassi placing his car brilliantly, but Tycho just a little bit more aggressive with that battery, and he's able to scurry away, still holding on to P2 for this race so far. But of course, he's not going to be happy with the P2. He wants this race win.
Indeed he does, and they head down towards turn 9 once again now for the penultimate time in this race. Ismail Fassi looking to gain in and make a move here. He hasn't used any ERS in towards there because he knows for a fact he can get the move done on that back straight. But the question is, can he get two cars into one corner? It's going to be a struggle, but definitely possible as we can see him heading out now out of turn number 12 in towards 13 and 14. Josh, and here yet again down towards turn 1. I think Ismail's got better top line speed than both, but it's down to the fact of how far Thomas is ahead.
Yeah, absolutely, and it just gives that little bit of a better slipstream to the cars around him. So Ismail Fassi here is going to be tucking up again behind, but he's not quite there, is he? He's not quite close enough to make a move, but if they're going to be battling wheel to wheel here, as Tycho Hardy's had to take to the outside there, and Ismail Fassi finds a way to squeeze through there. Brilliant stuff, very opportunistic from the Williams driver. Puts Tycho Hardy down into P3, but will it be P3 for too much longer? We see Thomas Ronhard's red light on the back of his Sauber is flashing, indicating he's below 10% ERS. And Ismail Fassi seems to have a little bit more to play with, a little bit more to deploy. It could very well go down to the line here around turns 12 and 13 here as well. It's going to be certainly interesting before they head up into TV3 here, before they get into Kamsa here at turn 9. Is Ismail Fassi going to dump a battery? Is he looking to try and hunt down Ron Half of his last move?
I don't think he can do. He's not got enough space, but he's going to send it to the inside. He can't. He's a bit of an unlawful send there from Ismail Fassi. And I don't think there's much more he can do here. So back to the front, and Thomas Ronhaar will come through and towards turns 12 and 13. Brilliant so far from him in this Grand Prix. Absolutely impeccable. Nothing could have stopped him here in this race. He'll come through into turn 14. It will be RHG with their first victory of the season. Thomas Ronhaar takes it for them. Absolutely brilliant. Thomas Ronhaar, you are a winner here in E-Series ahead of Ismail Fassi and Toka Hardy to take third place. Brilliant race. Not the most entertaining toward, in the middle pack, but at the end, you couldn't have called who it would have been to take the victory between the top three. It'll be Thomas ahead of Ismail, ahead of Toka Hardy, and that, I believe, Josh here could give F7R the championship lead in his SRC. Finished 5th and 11th. They finished 3rd and 8th.
Yeah, very much so as well. It's going to be more of a what could have been, especially for the likes of Williams, where obviously Carrington having that disconnect cost them massively. We could have potentially seen both of them jumping ahead of SRC in the standings and having a little duel out. But I feel like as far as it goes, F7R have had a fantastic run here. P3 and P8. Dare I say, driver of the day for me, it has to go to Tiger Hardy. He was up there with Thomas Ronhaar throughout the entirety of the race, always battling, always squabbling, putting his car in different places. It was fantastic to see.
Indeed, and obviously unfortunate for Louis Welch, who unfortunately, only finished in P11. He did pit a little bit earlier than the others, and it didn't seem to work as much as he would have liked to, but he still gets himself a decent couple of points. Obviously, Lenny Pepinter as well, recovering himself up into P10, and also a big name there, Timo Zelenkovic, started last, finished in P9. Absolutely brilliant there from the MVR driver. I think they'll be very happy with those points.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to start thinking, if they're able to sort out that qualifying run and get them started in a better position, how much higher would he be able to finish? It's going to be one of those where they'll be scratching their heads for a little bit, but they can't look at the past. That is the circuit of Catalonia sorted. That is the Barcelona race done. And Thomas Ronhaar Sauber is your winner here tonight. Now, question comes, will they be able to carry the momentum through to the next round of the championship, which is, of course, is around Paul Ricard, the French circuit, that beautiful painted track. Certainly going to be in for a good one there.
It will indeed, as we can see the final classification of the Spanish Grand Prix. It's Thomas Ronhaar who takes victory ahead of Ismail Fassi in second and Tycho Hardy in the top three. Obviously on pole, down to third, definitely still a good result for him. Then we have Max Wiesel in P4 ahead of Shanaka Clay, Nicholas Longe, Bradley Holdham, Nando Moreira, Timo Zelenkovic and Lenny Pepinta rounding out the top 10, followed by Louis Welch in P11, Declan Barrett in P12, Jan Herde 13th, Sixten Lindner in 14th, Joris Krozen in P15, Alvaro Caraton in P16, followed by Kamil Zander Franek and Alex Santana rounding out the whole grid. And hopefully, Josh, we can have a bit of a word from a couple of drivers in that top three there.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. But in the meantime, we do just have to say thank you everyone for tuning in once again here for another round of these series. It's been absolutely brilliant. Of course, going to have to give a special thank you as well over on the Twitch side to Al Sorico for the beautiful sub earlier on in the stream. Sorry we weren't able to point it out. It's in the middle of a race. But thank you once again. And thank you to everyone who's been interacting in chat over on YouTube. See the likes. The traditional people. The likes of Yorit. The likes of Timon. The likes of Dylan, Jonah, Charlie. We see all of you in chat. We see everything you put. It's absolutely lovely having you guys interact with us in chat. It's been brilliant so far, but hopefully we're going to be able to get some of these drivers in to get a couple of opinions here and there, try and find out how their race has gone. But in the meantime, I feel like we should probably give a special mention to, of course, our title sponsor and our sponsor as well of SRC and GT Omega. Obviously, two brilliant brands we get to work with, and two brilliant brands which, have certainly played their part in helping make PSGL as big as it is. So without further ado, thank you very much to SRC and GT Omega. Here's your mandatory screen time, I guess. There you go.
I'm very sorry to Mr. Yona Martins there. A picture's putting him in the chat, and I accidentally swapped over before I left Discord, which meant we all saw the picture of Yona Martins holding a box of McDonald's chicken nuggets. So sorry, Yona, for being leaked there, but well. What can I say? Brilliant race, and hopefully we can get a word from some of them soon. And I need to learn not to stay in Discord when tuning back into the intermission screen, because I've done it more than enough times. I've linked too many things, and I'm probably on the the list of being fired here at this point. But hopefully, Josh, I don't know if you can see if anyone's in there waiting, but it would be nice.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you the choice between Ismail Fassi or Thomas Ronhaar. Which one do you want in first, or do you want both of them at the same time?
We'll get our race winner in.
We'll get the race winner in. Right, let's drag Mr. Ron Hart in here. Thomas, absolutely brilliant race, mate. Congratulations on the win. How does it feel?
Feels good. First win in E-Series, so that's a very good start. I think Zana got very unlucky with today. He had some issues with his monitor, so all of a sudden his screen just completely shut off. So yeah, I don't know what happened exactly with him, but that was one of the reasons he dropped so far to, I don't know, P17, P18. But yeah, I'm happy to take the win for the team and closing the gap towards the front of the pack. I don't know how many points we gained or even lost to a few teams. I think we gained definitely a good chunk of points to some teams. I think F7R were the only team that possibly outscored us today. But yeah, good result nevertheless. I enjoyed, had some good pace, and yeah, GG's to everybody.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely brilliant watching from a perspective. Of course, going down into that last couple laps of a race, you had Ismail Fassi putting Tycho Hardy under a lot of pressure for P2. Did you at one point look in your rear view mirror and think these two are going to be duking out on the last lap? I can save a little bit more battery and just deploy it whenever I need for a little bit of an escape?
Well, it was always going to be tricky with Taijo and Ismail behind me. They possibly had a bit more battery than me, not much, but the areas and E-areas around there is very powerful, especially with how long the straight is and towards turn one. So I knew it was going to be tricky, but I was very strong in the third sector, so I knew if I had a good run in towards turn one, I had at least a chance of defending, which I managed to do so, and pretty keen racing today. I did look at my rearview mirrors quite a few times, so don't worry about that. Yeah, it was certainly fun, and yeah, can't wait for the next few races.
Lovely stuff. And then, of course, we've got Ismail Fassi and Tycho Hardy rounding out the podium. Ishmael, you first. How did you find that race, mate? You was putting Tycho under so much pressure in the dying stages, and you did a fantastic job at finally getting that position. Just walk us through that race, mate. How did it feel from start to finish?
Well, firstly, I didn't want to start with the same tire as others, as I knew from PSGL like 2 weeks ago. I felt like mediums were faster after like 5 or 6 laps than softs in the first stint, so I wanted to start with mediums. The thing was to keep the position with the people behind me on soft, and I did. So yeah, after a few laps I overtook Max, and then I only had to recharge, as it's very difficult here. And then when I did the pit stop, I also I didn't undercut Tijo, but yeah, I gained the position to Alvaro, who got disconnected. So yeah, it was very unlucky for him. If he didn't disconnect, I'm sure we would be P1 in the standings. But it is what it is. In the second stint, I only had to lift and coast as well to recharge as much battery as possible. Max, I think he had light damage on his front wing, so I was fine with the people behind me. And yeah, last 2 laps I started pushing a bit. Tijo tried to move to Thomas. I took the chance to overtake him, and I did so. So yeah, happy with P2, even though it's Spain.
Yeah, I mean, it's Spain. You can't spell Spain without a little bit of pain, but once again, congratulations on your P2, mate. Looking forward to seeing what you're able to cook up next week as well. But then, of course, we do have Tycho, and Tycho, I feel bad for you, mate. You had such a great run. You had such a great race up until that last couple laps. But, of course, you've still got a podium. You can't be too disheartened by that, can you?
No, I can't. To be honest, still happy with the race, but I'm very frustrated with that last lap, because in the end, I just wanted to win, and I tried it, but the move was never really on. And I could have maybe gone for the overtake anyway if I would have stayed behind and tried a bit of a switchback. So yeah, I got a bit too desperate on the final lap, which I do blame myself for. But in the end, like usually, I always have good pace in quali, for example, but I just can't never show it in the real session. And this time I did, and I didn't expect this lap time to be pole, but in the end it was. And yeah, I can't be too mad at myself, but in the end I do still regret the last lap, which was just stupid.
Yeah, it did. I think you did a good race. I think obviously S7R themselves are looking quite strong in this championship. Obviously, you didn't make it through in season 1 or season 2. You've come into season 3 your first time, and I think at this point you are leading the championship. So, has anything different happened over at S7R this time to get yourself such a good run at the start of this championship?
Well, I mean, I think we've always been very strong even on PC, but yeah, we've got some new guys in the team, and I think yeah, now that a lot of the console guys are going to PC, like the focus was maybe a little bit more on console, and now like everyone is really focusing on the PC side. Everyone's working like really hard on the setups and stuff. And even last season, I think we should have qualified, but we didn't, and like that's something like we always have struggled with. I think even when we were on console, we never taken pole,
Yeah.
and now we got pole 2 out of 3 races. So yeah, I don't know what's happened, but yeah, I mean, I'm just happy. I've been getting into Q3 every time. I mean, yeah, as first pole in like a top tier as well. I guess it's not top tier, but still with the guys that are on the grid, stronger than F2, and I didn't get a pole there yet. So I mean, I can't be too disheartened. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely
nothing's
not.
really changed. I guess everyone's just working hard and it's paying off.
Indeed, and obviously quite a few more rains left to go, so you've got to keep up that momentum. But obviously, thank you, Taiko and Ishmael, for joining us for an interview, and hope you have a very good evening, and we might see you again next time, so have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
And this time, Josh, I won't leak the Discord when I bring us back over towards
That
the
would be
intermission screen.
lovely,
But you can see us now.
Okay. Can we see the picture of Yoda again?
No, that's going to
Hopefully
be
not.
long gone. We're not going to see that anymore because I do not want to be beaten up and sent a message by the lawyers at Ferrari. That would be something I'm hoping for.
Come on, it's a box of chicken McNuggets. Everyone's had one sometime, surely. But no, dare I say, once again, fantastic race here at E Series. It wasn't the most, action-packed one, but there was enough strategy in there to make you second guess everything which could happen. And if at any moment a safety car came out, it would have flipped the entirety of this race on its head.
Of course, I think the weather, obviously at the start of Q1 and Q2, definitely brought some, some strange implications in towards the qualifying the race as well. Also, it was a little bit dull, but there are many different things going on, which we obviously had our eyes on, and obviously penalties will be coming through because there was quite a few incidents, considering it was quite a bit of a dull race. So obviously, we'll see what happens with that, and we could see some drivers move up and down positions, obviously going through in towards the next round. But we'll have a little look at our calendar while we get ready, and while we get ready to close down the train. Obviously, next week we're off to Paul Ricard, which is a track I will say forever, a little bit like Kota, it is underrated as hell.
It is one of the best tracks on this game. I will say it, and I'll say it proudly. In Formula One cars in real life, it might not quite be there. It's not always guaranteed a banger, but in this game, for some reason, I'm not sure why, but the drivers always seem to absolutely go ham around this circuit. It's fantastic to see as well. It's dare I say, the best circuit on this game for a bit of good racing. You've got such a long straight. DRS, ERS both play pivotal parts. Of course, you've got that awkward sector 3 where it doesn't matter what longevity your tyres are on. If you can place your car correctly, you can defend from anyone. It's ridiculous. It's a brilliant circuit. It's certainly going to make some great racing. Even if, we have a couple of changes on the lineups, on the rosters, I'm sure we're still going to be in for an action-packed race next week, of course, as well. I just want to get there to Friday. Can we just go?
Well, I wouldn't mind it because I want to get, this championship, it's getting better and better, isn't it? The standings are getting closer and closer, whether it's at the front or whether it's at the back, something's going on. So I think this series so far has been the best we've had out of the 3 seasons, obviously with season 1 and 2. It's been absolutely amazing. And it's nice not to see a team dominating like Ferrari did back last season there. It's not nice to see them struggle, but it's a little bit nicer not to see them get 1-2, 1-3, 1-4 every single race. But I think, Josh, that is all we've got left to say. It's been a brilliant race once again here at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. We'll be back next week, of course, for round 4 of the championship. Obviously, make sure to keep your eyes peeled for the PC and the PlayStation tiers, along with obviously PCF1, which is back again next Wednesday. So we'll be back then. So for now, have a good one, and we'll see you then. Goodbye.
Bye.